Chapter 1766. Violent Uncle Dragon 2. In an instant, fear, regret, and countless other emotions flashed through everyone's hearts. Moreover, they knew that this was the time when they needed top-class experts the most, so they did not dare to take Uncle Long's words lightly. It was an elder of the Chung and Yao families who told me. After weighing the pros and cons, some people quickly betrayed the two people who had spoken just now, while more people were extremely glad that they hadn't said anything that they shouldn't have. Otherwise, this Uncle Long would definitely not let them off. Thinking of this, everyone quietly distanced themselves from the two elders of the Chung and Yao families. And Uncle Long didn't let down his heavy gaze. He grabbed the two elders of the Chung and Yao families, who were standing upright like cranes among chickens, and walked toward a corner. Not long after, a pig-like howl came from the corner. "Arg! Ah! Murder! Help me! Arg! Don't hit me! I was wrong! I was wrong!" Everyone looked up at the sky in unison when they heard the scream. This was not the time for them to make a sound, but Uncle Long's violent image had been deeply engraved in their hearts. Immediately, everyone decided that they could not afford to offend Uncle Long. After a long time, when the Yao and Chung families' two elders crawled out from the corner, everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock, looking at the two people in front of them in disbelief. Fuck! Were these two really the two elders from before? Although these two elders were not extraordinarily handsome, they were at least decent-looking. But now, they were clearly pigs waiting to be slaughtered. Moreover, they were quite fat. Not only were they covered in wounds, but their bodies were also round and fat. They were 2 times fatter. Seeing the two's new appearance, everyone looked at Uncle Long with a complicated expression. The reality in front of them made them speechless and flabbergasted. Uncle Long found a seat and sat down. He took out a small table from his storage ring and placed it in front of him. Then, he placed a teacup and a teapot on the table and began to slowly enjoy the tea. As he sipped the tea in his hand, he observed their reactions. When everyone saw how relaxed and comfortable he was, they all felt a mix of emotions, jealousy, envy, and hatred. Look at him. He was also in the mystic realm, but he was living a good life. On the other hand, even though they were trapped here, they were still very afraid and didn't dare to let their guard down. Sob, it was infuriating to compare. Master Een, this tea was prepared by my little girl. Do you want to try it? After a long while, Uncle Long spoke. All right. The master of the Een family couldn't ask for more. His biggest hobby was drinking tea, and now that he smelled the tea, he was already tempted. However, he wasn't close to Uncle Long, so he didn't ask for it. He walked to Uncle Long's side and sat down. Uncle Long took out a jade teacup from his storage ring and poured a cup of tea for the Een family's master. After that, he didn't say anything else. The Een family's master, who had the tea to drink, ignored the looks everyone gave him and silently drank it. After an unknown amount of time, Uncle Long's tea was almost finished. Then he took out a steaming, oily roast chicken from his ring and generously gave half of it to the Een family's master. When everyone smelled the aroma of the roast chicken, they unconsciously swallowed their saliva. However, no one dared to approach him. What a fragrant roast chicken. Can you share some with me? At this time, a slightly low voice rang in everyone's ears. When everyone heard this voice, they all consciously made way for him. Thanks, old man Ning. Why did you come out? Quickly go back to your room. The master of the Een family immediately said in dissatisfaction after seeing the owner of the voice. I came out because of the fragrance. Why? Do you want to take all the food for yourself? The master of the Ning family said with some dissatisfaction. You ungrateful brat, am doing this for your own good. The master of the Een family was a little angry. I want to eat roast chicken. It tastes just like the one my precious daughter makes. The master of the Ning family, who had been attracted by the fragrance, walked to Uncle Long and said with a drooling face. He had been in the room and hadn't paid attention to the situation outside, so he didn't know what had just happened. You're the master of the Ning family? You're injured. Uncle Long's eyes were like torches as he said this. As he spoke, he handed over the roast chicken in his hand. The master of the Ning family unceremoniously took the fragrant chicken and took a big bite. Then he frowned and said, "I was slightly injured." It's not just similar, the taste is exactly the same. He was a little confused. Was there something wrong with his taste? Otherwise, how could he smell the food that Shui made? This was really abnormal, because this was all caused by Shui. Uncle Long said with a smile. He had heard a lot about the master of the Ning family and knew that he was a protective guy. He had a good impression of the master of the Ning family today, and he even missed the little girl here. It could be seen that he really loved the little girl, and the little girl had risked her life to save him in vain. What? The master of the Ning family was shocked, and his already pale face became paler. Old thing, you can't be excited. Quickly calm down. Sensing Master Ning's excitement, Master Yin said worriedly, "I'm fine. Don't be so nervous." The master of the Ning family didn't want to be treated like a patient, so when he heard Master Yin's words, he immediately exploded. Although the other party had good intentions, he couldn't appreciate it. You ungrateful old man. I'm not going to care about you anymore, all right?" The Yin family's master's temper also rose. "I didn't ask you to care about it." The master of the Ning family couldn't help but mumble. Then he grabbed Uncle Long's arm tightly and asked nervously, "What did you just say? Who made this chicken?" He was afraid that he had heard wrong. "This chicken was made by Lung Rua Shue." Uncle Long laughed evilly. He didn't expect that the master of the Ning family would find out about it with just a chicken. "Are you sure?" Master Ning was still in disbelief. I'm sure. This chicken was personally prepared by Shui, and I heard that she's your goddaughter, right?" Uncle Long asked despite knowing the answer. "MMH, that's right. She's my goddaughter. But why don't I know you? Also, where's Shui?" The Ning family's master asked a few questions in a row, making Uncle Long not know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that the moment Lung Ruoxue was mentioned, this fellow would become so nervous. There were so many questions. Which one should he answer first? That little girl is now in this secret realm, and we met in the endless sea. Uncle Long thought for a while and decided to pick the most important part so that he wouldn't make this guy anxious to death. Chapter 1767. Violent Uncle Dragon 3. Little Shui has also come to the secret realm? Damn it, who asked her to come? Hearing Uncle Long's words, the master of the Ning family suddenly became anxious. Like an ant in a hot pot, he kept walking around and drawing circles on the ground. "She came here to save you. Besides, she's much safer than you in this secret realm," Uncle Long couldn't help but say, although he knew that his words might strike a blow to these experts of the divine realm. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, some people became dissatisfied. "Senior, aren't your words biased? Although we are trapped in this secret realm, the weakest among us is a divine emperor. I wonder what is the cultivation level of the little girl you speak of?" The person who spoke was also an elder of the Yao family. Moreover, his face carried a trace of dissatisfaction. "So what if he's a divine emperor? You guys don't even dare to leave this house, do you? However, in order to find you, the three of us almost turned this secret realm upside down. If it were you, would you dare to do the same?" Uncle Long sneered. "That's because she has a senior protecting her." The Yao family elders said stubbornly, "You're wrong. I'm not the one protecting her. She's the one who's been protecting me." Uncle Long told the truth, but that was all he had to say. As for the little girl's methods and the damage she could cause to the monsters here, he didn't intend to say it in public. After all, they didn't know who the enemy's hidden chess piece was. They couldn't let their guard down as long as they didn't find the person. How is this possible? The Yao family elder obviously didn't believe him. "It's up to you to believe it or not," Uncle Long said coldly. After that, he no longer paid any attention to the Yao family. However, in his heart, the Yao family had become a synonym for disgust and had been blacklisted by him. At this time, the master of the Ning family took the initiative to pull Uncle Long into his room. "May I know how to address you?" The master of the Ning family asked very politely after closing the door. "The little girl calls me Uncle Long," Uncle Long said after thinking for a while. "Oh, Brother Long, can you tell me more about Shui? The master of the Ning family said humbly. He completely believed Uncle Long's words, but he still had to confirm it. Sure. Uncle Long nodded, then told him everything about how they met and what they had experienced in the secret realm. After hearing it, the master of the Ning family was silent for a long time. I was too arrogant and caused trouble for Shui. After a long while, the master of the Ning family sighed. Don't be arrogant and don't cause any trouble. That's all in the past, so there's no point in talking about it. You'd better think about how to explain your injury to the little girl. If I'm not wrong, your injuries are not light. Uncle Long reminded her kindly. Even though he had not spent much time with Lung Ruoxue, he knew very well that this little girl was very protective of her own people. If she knew that her godfather had been seriously injured, she would probably fly into a rage. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the master of the Ning family sighed helplessly. How could he not have thought of what Uncle Long had thought of? He didn't dare to see Shui anymore. He could hide. It's useless to be a coward. You can't hide forever. Seeing through Master Ning's thoughts, Uncle Long said speechlessly, why is the master of the Ning family so afraid of a little girl? Brother Long, you don't understand. When that girl is angry, she's really terrifying. The master of the Ning family said fearfully. Then you're on your own. Uncle Long said with a hint of sympathy. Brother Long, you can't just leave me in the lurch. The master of the Ning family begged with a bitter face. Master Ning, I'm just living under someone else's roof. My words don't hold any weight in this little girl's heart, so don't make things difficult for me. Uncle Long replied with a bitter face. Brother Long, the master of the Ning family continued to call. Master Ning, I really can't do anything. You'd better think about how to explain it to the little girl. I think she should be here soon. Uncle Long reminded him with a look of sympathy. After saying that, Uncle Long slipped away. Looking at Uncle Long's back, the master of the Ning family sat down on the chair, frowning. Old man Ning, I heard that Shui is here. Where is she? At this time, the head elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters pushed the door open and entered. He had originally been recuperating in his room, but after hearing the news, he had hurried over. Thanks, he's not here yet. However, I'll be soon. The master of the Ning family said weakly. What's the meaning of this? The great elder's face was filled with question marks. Shui came into the secret realm to save us. However, she saw that we were surrounded by monsters, so she went to draw them away. The person who came in was with her. The master of the Ning family explained, and the great elder became anxious when he heard this. What? Did Shui go to draw away those monsters? How could this be? No, I have to go out and save her. The great elder quickly said. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked out. Wait, don't drag that little girl Shui down. She can handle those monsters. Seeing this, the master of the Ning family quickly called out to the great elder. What did you just say? The first elder couldn't help but widen his eyes at Master Ning's words. Did he hear it wrong? Could Shui deal with those monsters? I was saying that Shui could deal with those monsters. Do you still remember her flames? The master of the Ning family reminded. There's too much. The great elder nodded his head. Not to mention having an impression, Shui's flames had left such a deep impression on him that he could not forget them even if he wanted to. Those flames are the monster's nemesis. So, we have hope of leaving this place. The master of the Ning family said faintly. This is great. First elder was very happy. This was simply not a place for humans to stay. Don't be happy too early. Now that both of us are injured, if Shui finds out, we'll be in trouble. The master of the Ning family saw that the great elder was overjoyed, so he could only remind him of the matter that the two of them were about to face. Well, you're Shui's godfather. It's only natural for her to be angry because you're injured, but the great elder stammered, but he could not finish his sentence. In fact, what he wanted to say was, you're her godfather, and am not anyone to her. I wanted to acknowledge her as my god-granddaughter. So, am not related to her at all. Even if she wants to get angry, she can't do it to me. However, He couldn't say it out loud, because he knew very well that Shue treated him the same way she treated Old Man Ning. The reason she didn't acknowledge him as her god-grandfather was because of Old Man Ning's face. Sob. It seemed like he couldn't escape Shue anger. But my ass, don't think that you can escape just because Shue didn't acknowledge you as her god-grandfather. Let me tell you, there's no way you can escape. You have to suffer with me. The master of the Ning family and the Great Elder had known each other for many years, so how could he not know what the Great Elder was thinking? However, if the old man thought that he could avoid Shue's anger by doing this, then he was wrong. Then what should we do? Hearing this, First Elder was like a frosted eggplant, wilting. I don't know. The master of the Ning family was also listless. Why don't we go and look for Shun Nuo? Let's see if he has any pills that can help us disguise ourselves. After a long time, First Elder came up with an idea. Will this work? What if we're exposed? The master of the Ning family was a little hesitant. If Shue found out that they had faked their injuries to hide them, she would probably be even angrier. Then you can just tell me the truth, the First Elder said with slight disdain. This old thing didn't dare to speak the truth and was afraid of being exposed. How could everything go as he wished? No, I can't say. The master of the Ning family shook his head and then said pitifully, Let's go and look for Shin Nuo. He might have a way. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. The First Elder urged, and after he finished speaking, the two of them headed straight for Shun Nuo's room. At this moment, Shun Nuo, who was in the room, was fiddling with the medicinal herbs in her hands. When she saw the two of them, she stood up with a disapproving look on her face. You guys ran around again. Didn't I say that you have to stay in your rooms to recuperate? As an alchemist, he hated disobedient patients the most. We have something to discuss with you, the master of the Ning family said, slightly embarrassed. After that, he quickly explained the reason for their visit to Shin Nuo. After Shin Nuo heard it, she frowned, but she still took out 2 pale yellow pills from her storage ring and passed them to them. It's impossible to completely hide your injuries, but these 2 pills can make you look better, Shin Nuo explained. It seems like this is the only way. Although Master Ning was a little disappointed, it was better to look better than to be pale. After taking the pills, Master Ning and the Grand Elder specially went to remind the others not to tell Lung Ruoxue about their injuries. After making all the necessary arrangements, they waited for Lung Ruoxue and the demon to come knocking on their door. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had already lured those monsters to a place 10,000 miles away. However, she did not kill those monsters to avoid attracting the attention of the men in black in the secret realm. After she turned invisible and returned, she met the demon who came to her rescue halfway. The two of them met up and returned to the house together. At this time, the sky was already bright. Chapter 1768. Looking for Trouble. 1. Walking to the front of the house, the evildoers started knocking on the door again. This time, the people inside the house heard the knocking and quickly ran over. After all, they were already mentally prepared that there would be more people coming. Furthermore, Uncle Long was still watching them from the side. They didn't dare to take their time. Who is it? The voice in the room asked in a trembling voice. My surname is Lung. When Lung Ruoxue heard his trembling voice, she actually felt like laughing. However, when she recalled what the evildoer had said to her, she put on a straight face again, because the evildoer had already complained to her. Hurry up and open the door. Stop talking so much nonsense. At this moment, Uncle Long's loud and clear voice came from the house again. Yes, yes, the person in the house hurriedly said in fear. Then he opened the door a crack and stuck his head out from inside, urging, Quickly come in. Don't let the monster find out. Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer exchanged glances and walked into the house. Little girl, did you run into any trouble? When Uncle Long saw Lung Ruoxue, he sized her up and asked with concern. No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue said softly. Then, she turned her beautiful eyes to the person who had opened the door for her and asked curiously, Whose family are you from? Wasn't this person a little too timid? She was a divine emperor after all, yet she was actually so afraid. It was really embarrassing. Lung Ruoxue could not help but lament in her heart. Ha ha ha. Little girl, He's an elder of the Wen family. Hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, Uncle Long laughed out loud. I see. Lung Ruoxu nodded and stopped staring at the trembling elder of the Wen family, so as not to scare him into fainting. However, if such a timid fellow were to become an elder, the Wen family would not have much development. Uncle Long, have you seen Godfather and the Great Elder? Lung Ruoxu looked at Uncle Long and asked. I've seen him. Uncle Long wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't expose the two guys who were lying. Forget it. He'd just pretend that he didn't know about it. No one told him anyway. Where are they? Are you all right? Lung Ruoxu asked worriedly. We're here. At this moment, Master Ning and First Elder, who had already come out of the room, had also arrived at the door. When they saw Lung Ruoxu, they spoke excitedly. Godfather, Great Elder. When Lung Ruoxu saw the two of them, she was very happy. Furthermore, they looked to be in good shape, so her heart that had been hanging in the air was finally at ease. We willfully came to this mystic realm, and now we have to trouble you to save us. We are really sorry. The First Elder said in embarrassment. Great Elder, what's the point of saying all this now? Besides, as long as you're safe and sound, it doesn't matter if I'm in trouble. Lung Ruoxu said helplessly. Shuai was right, old man. Since you're already here, why are you so conflicted? Let's just treat this as a vacation. The master of the Ning family was very open-minded, but as soon as he finished speaking, he received a sharp glare from the First Elder. Thanks, in fact, there was a reason why the Great Elder said that. After all, it was better to lower his stance and be polite now than to let this little girl take revenge after he was exposed, right? Moreover, with his understanding of this girl, he was very clear that if the things that he and Old Man Ning had hidden were exposed, this little girl would definitely not let them off easily. So, acting pitiful was the right way now. Who knew that old thing would actually? However, he had already said it, and he couldn't take it back even if he wanted to. Therefore, he could only keep staring at the master of the Ning family and use his eyes to signal him not to talk nonsense. The master of the Ning family also understood the meaning of the Great Elder and could only shut his mouth in embarrassment. Lung Ruoxu felt suspicious when she saw Godfather and Great Elder's flirtatious interaction with their brows furrowed. Her instincts told her that these two villains were hiding something from her. However, since they were not willing to tell her, she would not force them. She would just have to see how long they could keep up the act. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxu smiled faintly and said, Godfather and Great Elder must not have had a good rest during this period of time, right? You guys should go back to your rooms and rest. I'm just taking a walk around here. Let this Elder of the One family be my guide. Lung Ruoxu pointed at the One family elder. When she heard this, her heart skipped a beat and a bad feeling rose in her heart. What were they going to do? Don't tell me you want to silence me? His thoughts started to run wild. We're not tired. The Ning family head and the Great Elder said helplessly. Why did this little girl chase them away when they had just met? This fact made them quite depressed. How can I not be tired? You've been in the mystic realm for so long, living in fear every day. The pressure is huge. So, quickly go back and rest. Lung Ruoxu urged. Lung Ruoxu chased the Ning family's master and the First Elder back to their room. Then, she asked the unlucky Wen family elder to lead the way. As the elder walked, he said with a long face, Uncle Long, am also always in fear, so tired. In other words, he also wanted to go back to his room to rest. Why are you telling me? Whatever our little girl says. Uncle Long said, as if it was none of his business. Miss Lung, can I go back to my room to rest? After the elder of the Wen family heard what Uncle Long had to say, he looked at Lung Ruoxu and asked unwillingly. He did not expect that a reverent god could not even make such a small decision. He even asked him to ask a god. If this were to spread, how embarrassing would it be? What do you think? Lung Ruoxu asked with a smile. Miss Lung, this house is not big. I don't think you need me to lead the way. The elder of the Wen family stole a glance at Uncle Long. Seeing that he was still calm and did not seem to be angry, he gathered his courage and said, Then what's the point of you staying here? This young lady doesn't support idle people. Lung Rawashua said coldly. The elder of the One family was stunned. What did this wretched girl mean? What did he mean by what value did he have here? What do you mean by idle? Fuck. After all, he was a divine emperor. How could it be of no value? Furthermore, he was not idle, because they had not eaten for many days. What do you mean by that? The elder of the One family asked shamelessly after he had recovered from his shock. His eyes were burning with a raging flame, and the flame flickered with the light of anger. If you're of no value, they'll throw you out and feed you to those monsters so that we don't waste air. Lung Rawashua laughed evilly. What did you just say? I dare you to say that again. The elder of the One family thought he had heard wrong and could not help but ask again. AI, it seems that you are really useless. You can't even understand what I'm saying. Uncle Long said sympathetically. Then he continued, my little girl said that if you don't have any value, she should throw you out of the house so that you don't occupy the latrine pit and become a dog in the manger. You should understand now. Chapter 1769. Looking for trouble, too. You dare. I'm an elder of the One family. This time, the One family elder, who had heard everything clearly, was so angry that his face turned red and his neck became thick. He raised his voice and roared. What's wrong with the One family's elders? Is it that amazing? Lung Rawashua scoffed. You dare to look down on the One family? The One family elder's voice grew even louder, as if he was afraid that no one could hear him. His words also successfully attracted the crowd's attention. What happened? At this time, a slightly aged voice interrupted. Then, an old man walked up to them. The old man's hair was white, but he had a ruddy complexion. However, he didn't seem to be in good spirits. Second elder, this damned, ugly woman actually looks down on the One family. We can't let her off. The elder of the One family said hurriedly when he saw that help had arrived. I'm right to say that you're useless. You didn't even do anything, and you're already complaining. Lung Rawashua chuckled. Young lady, although I don't know what kind of grudge you have with Elder Xiong, but the divine world has always respected the strong. Elder Xiong is a divine emperor. You should respect him. After hearing Lung Rawashua's words, the One family's second elder frowned. Even though this was a critical period and he didn't want to cause any trouble, the One family's reputation could not be trampled on. What's wrong with the divine emperor? Everyone here is at least a divine emperor, but aren't you all still trapped here like birds in a cage? Lung Rawashua said disapprovingly. That's because the second elder of the One family was about to explain himself when he was rudely interrupted by Lung Rawashua. Because those monsters can't be killed, right? Lung Rawashua said with a half-smile. That's right. We've thought of all kinds of ways, but we can't kill those monsters. The second elder of the One family said, So you're saying that you're all useless? Lung Rawashua said indifferently. What do you mean by that? The One family's second elder questioned angrily. Second elder, these are the words she said to me before. At this moment, Elder Xiong added fuel to the fire. I just said it, and it was the literal meaning. Lung Rawashua smiled calmly. You're saying we're useless? The One family's second elder narrowed his eyes as a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. Isn't this already proven? Lung Rawashua said lightly. What a bold little girl. It'll prove to you how powerful I am now. The One family's second elder was infuriated as he spoke fiercely. After he finished speaking, he pounced towards Lung Rawashua like a tiger pouncing on its prey. However, before he could get close to Lung Rawashua, he was stopped by Uncle Long. Thanks, old man. What's there to prove to a little girl? Why don't you prove it to me? Uncle Long laughed evilly as he grabbed the second elder's arm. You're a reverent god. The One family's second elder was exasperated. This was clearly bullying. You're still a divine emperor. You can even fight against a god. So why can't I let you prove your strength to me? This doesn't make sense, does it? Uncle Long said with a smile. It was rare to have so many sandbags. If he didn't practice now, when would he do it? What's more, what kind of strength can you prove to a god? Even if you win, you'll be tainted by others. Therefore, proving it to me is your best choice. If you can win against me, you'll also make others look at you in a higher light. Don't you think so? Uncle Long advised earnestly. With that, Uncle Long dragged the second elder of the Wen family away like he was carrying a little chicken. Naturally, they went to a corner. Uncle Long, why didn't you beat him up in front of us? Watching Uncle Long's back view, Lung Ruoxue was a little confused. Maybe Uncle Long is shy. The demon guessed. The conversation between the two of them made the rest of the people present feel embarrassed. Would Uncle Long be shy? How could they not believe it? However, Uncle Long had even beaten up the second elder of the Wen family. This made them even more certain that they should not offend Uncle Long. No, that's not right. He couldn't offend any of these people. Just as they were thinking about this, the evildoer pulled the Wen family's elder Xiong in front of him and said with a smirk, "Since your helper has been taken by Uncle Long, then let me have a good time." After he finished speaking, he attacked Wen family's elder Xiong in front of everyone. For a moment, the entire courtyard was silent. Other than the crisp sound of slaps, the sound of fists hitting flesh, and the rising and falling screams, everyone didn't even dare to breathe. At this time, Elder Xiong in front of them had long been beaten silly. Instantly, everyone's backs broke out in cold sweat. That was a divine emperor. He was actually beaten up by a god king to the point where he couldn't even fight back. No, to be more precise, he had been beaten silly from the beginning and had no ability to resist at all. At this moment, the violent image of the evildoer had also been deeply imprinted in their hearts. Throwing the Wen family's elder Xiong onto the ground, his devilish black eyes looked around at everyone's faces before he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Who was the one who told us not to come in?" He was planning to settle the score after this. Upon hearing this, the crowd quickly dispersed, exposing the two elders from the Chung and Yao families who had said those words. Seeing this, the two elders were so angry that they almost vomited blood. This group of disloyal guys, this was blatant betrayal. However, what made them feel even more regretful was why they were so curious. If they hadn't come to watch the show, wouldn't they have been able to avoid this calamity? Could it be that this violent fellow would come to their room to beat people up? In fact, that was very possible. Looking at the two lonely people standing in the middle of the yard, the demon's lips curled into a smile. Then, he comforted them. "Don't be afraid. Let's have a spar." Can we not spar? The two of them asked in unison, their faces pale with fear. They didn't want to spar with this violent guy. The way this man had beaten up Elder Xiong had been deeply etched in their hearts, so they were a little afraid. Of course not. Don't be afraid. There are two of you, and you're stronger than me. So, you should be confident in yourself. In the one you should be afraid of. The demon kindly comforted. No way. They had an instinctive fear of the evildoer. Therefore, they could not be confident in themselves, as the evildoer had said. Besides, ever since they were ruthlessly taught a lesson by Uncle Long, their confidence had not recovered yet. In addition, they had just witnessed the violence of the evildoer. He was not much weaker than Uncle Long. A living example was in front of them, and they could not be tough at all. Seeing that the two of them were silent and only looked at him in fear, the demon lost his patience and shot forward like an arrow. He released 2 strands of black divine power that were thinner than a strand of hair and quietly wrapped them around Elder Yao and Elder Cheng's bodies. After they were tightly bound, he began another round of killing the chicken to warn the monkeys. Chapter 1770. Looking for Trouble 3. After a long time, Uncle Long walked out from the corner and saw the 3 chubby guys lying on the ground. He patted the evildoer's shoulder and praised. "Little brat ye not bad. It seems like we have a telepathic connection when it comes to beating people up. Thank you for your praise, Uncle Long." The demon laughed. Then, he asked curiously, "Where's the second elder of the Wen family? I haven't beaten him up yet." "He's in the corner. However, he's unconscious now, so you could beat him up when he wakes up," Uncle Long suggested. "All right." The demon nodded. A demon. The conversation between Uncle Long and the evildoer was the only word that everyone could think of. However, They were also very glad that they were not the ones who offended these devils. In fact, they had no idea that Lung Ruoxue and the other two were just trying to make an example out of them. Hence, as long as they did not walk right into the muzzle of their guns, nothing would happen. However, the seeds of fear had already been planted in their hearts. After the three of them made an example of each other, they acted as if nothing had happened and found a place to sit down. However, not long after they sat down, someone came to question them with a dark face. "Are you the ones who injured our one family members?" The one family's head stood in front of Lung Ruoxue and the other two, scowling and scowling. "So what if I am?" Lung Ruoxue raised her head and looked at the man in front of her with her beautiful eyes as she spoke in a disapproving tone. After she finished speaking, she sized up the one family head again. Although she had long heard of this old man's name, this was the first time she had seen him. The one family head looked to be in his early 30s. He was very handsome and had a noble aura. Unfortunately, the greed that flashed past his eyes destroyed his overall image. Due to the conflict he had with the one family in the past, Lung Ruoxue did not like him the moment she saw him. Hence, she did not hold back when she spoke to him. "You're really looking for death." The head of the one family was furious. This ugly woman in front of him was really looking down on the one family. If he didn't teach her a lesson today, the one family would become a laughingstock. In fact, he was originally staying in his room to recuperate. Who knew that the head of the Yao family would suddenly run into his room and tell him that someone from the one family had been beaten up. He even said that the one family had become the laughingstock of the divine realm. When he heard this, his anger immediately rose. Therefore, without thinking, he asked for the location of the murderer and rushed over. After he finished speaking, the one family head immediately made his move. A cold glint appeared in his hand, and a saber that was emitting an endless amount of cold chi appeared. Immediately, he brandished the saber in his hand and slashed at Lung Ruoxue. Clang! Clang! With a loud bang, the one family head's blade and a steel fork collided, creating countless sparks. One family head, you're a reverend god, so it's inappropriate for you to attack a junior. This old man will accompany you for a few moves. Uncle Long stood up and said. In fact, he had long wanted to have a good fight with the patriarchs of the 8 great divine regions. However, he was too lazy and was always unwilling to leave his residence. Therefore, this wish had never been realized. Now, he finally had the chance. Moreover, he had to come without any effort. Hee. Uncle Long was very happy. Who do you think you are? Are you even worthy of me making a move? The head of the one family said disdainfully, obviously not taking Uncle Long seriously. I'm a human, so I can't be considered a thing. Are you a thing? Uncle Long said with a look of surprise. Looking at Uncle Long's expression, Lung Ruoxue laughed in her heart. It seemed like Uncle Long had a talent for angering people. Not bad. You're looking for death. The head of the one family roared in anger. Then he locked his target on Uncle Long. This was Uncle Long's intention. Then, the two of them started fighting in the courtyard. Instantly, the glints of blades and the shadows of swords could be seen in the sky above the courtyard. Wherever the blue and green divine power went, it even brought up pieces of debris. However, they had only fought for a few rounds when they were suddenly interrupted by a furious voice. Damn it, who allowed you to fight here? The great elder roared in exasperation. Looking at the courtyard full of wolves, he even felt like crying. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. This courtyard was carefully decorated by him, but now it had become so tattered that it was unbearable to look at. This was preposterous. I didn't want to fight. It was the one family head who came over to teach us a lesson. Hence, I had no choice but to defend myself. Uncle Long quickly pushed the blame away. Thanks after hearing Uncle Long's words, the head of the one family was so angry that he was panting. What was this? Was he making bogus accusations? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shout, You were the ones who injured the one family members first. That's why I'm here to settle the score with you. Don't try to shirk your responsibility. We're not shirking responsibility, we're just telling the truth. Besides, even if we beat up your one family members, we didn't destroy this courtyard. This courtyard became like this because you came to us aggressively to settle the score and wanted to stand up for your family. Masterwin, there's so many witnesses here. Are you still trying to deny it? Uncle Long said with a smile. First Elder, if you don't believe me, you can ask the people here and see if it's the same as what I said, he added. There's no need to ask. I'm well aware of what kind of person old Manwin is. The First Elder said in a bad mood. His shrewd eyes glared fiercely at the one family head, and his words angered the one family head to the point of death. Great Elder, how can you accuse me without even asking? The head of the one family suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Fuck. If this old thing was not the First Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters, he would definitely teach this old thing a lesson. However, he could only endure it now. I wronged you? All right, then I'll let you be convinced. Let me ask you, before you came here, was my courtyard like this? The Great Elder pointed to a ragged courtyard and asked, I didn't pay much attention to that. The head of the Wind family said shamelessly, You didn't notice? Then tell me, Wind family head, what is this place like? The First Elder pointed at the others present. When the others saw that they had been dragged into the water, they all smiled bitterly. Woo! If they had known earlier, they wouldn't have come to watch the show. However, they had nowhere else to go other than this courtyard. They couldn't afford to offend the Wind family head, let alone the First Elder. Hence, everyone fell silent again. Great Elder, they're afraid of the one family head's revenge. How would they dare to say it? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue reminded them with a faint smile. The moment they heard this, everyone couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Was this woman trying to sow discord? Her words were clearly adding fuel to the fire. And if they chose the wrong side, they would lose their lives. Thinking of this, everyone wanted to cry, but had no tears. Oh, that makes sense. Lung Ruoxue's words made the First Elder nod his head continuously. Following that, he said angrily, You guys are only afraid of him, so I'm easy to bully? I'm telling you, if you don't tell me the truth, they'll send you out of this house. I mean what I say. As soon as the Great Elder finished speaking, everyone's faces turned pale. Then, they fought to tell the truth. Great Elder, it was indeed the head of the one family who made the first move. Great Elder, I can also prove it. Everyone quickly expressed their stance, while the one family head's expression became more and more unsightly. The one family head could see that in this situation, his position as a reverent god was definitely not as important as the Great Elder. Otherwise, even if they didn't want to offend the Great Elder, they would never have been willing to offend him. However, their lives were more important now, so they didn't care at all. After realizing this fact, the one family head was so angry that he turned around and left. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he was stopped by Lung Ruoxue. One family head, you're leaving just like that? Lung Ruoxue chuckled. What else do you want? The one family head's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Lung Ruoxue. You've turned the Great Elder's courtyard into such a dilapidated state. You should at least give some compensation, right? You can't just walk away like this. Lung Ruoxue reminded with a smile. However, she was currently in disguise, so her smile was terrifying. Shue is right. You can't just leave like this. You must compensate me for my losses. The Grand Elder said. Good, he'll pay. The head of the one family gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. However, the situation was pressing and it was not the time for him to do whatever he wanted. Hence, he had to endure it. However, he would remember all of these people. Since the one family head is so forthright, then we can't be stingy. Just compensate the cost price of 1 million top-grade crystals. After that, we'll forget about the losses you've caused to the Grand Elder. Lung Ruoxue was very generous. However, her words made the Great Elder break out in a cold sweat. Good boy. Shue really dared to make a bid. This was definitely an outrageous demand. However, seeing the constipated look on the one family head's face, even if he didn't get the money, he would still feel quite happy. 1 million? Why don't you just rob someone? As expected, the one family head was extremely furious and the flames of anger in his eyes burned even more fiercely. Rob, we're law-abiding citizens of the divine realm. How can we commit such an unprofessional act of robbery? Lung Ruakshu's smile was so natural. However, in the eyes of the one family's master, her smile was extremely unsightly. Chapter 1771. Luring the Snake. 1. What is the difference between your actions and robbery? The one family head gritted his teeth as he looked at Lung Ruashue with a sinister and furious gaze. If looks could kill, Lung Ruashue would have been riddled with holes by now. Of course there's a difference. We're just compensating you. Lung Ruashue laughed. Even if I destroy this place, it's not worth 1,000,000 top-grade crystal stones. Do you know how much that is? The head of the Wen family said, suppressing his anger. You think it's not worth it just because you say so? All the decorations here are the great elder's painstaking efforts. They're priceless and can't be bought with money. Moreover, I've seen 1,000,000 top-grade crystal stones, so I know how much it is. So, you don't have to feel superior. Even the great elder, and I don't put 1,000,000 top-grade crystal stones in our eyes. Therefore, you have to compensate this amount. In addition to the loss of this place, it also includes the emotional damage of the great elder, you know? Lung Ruashue explained with a smile. I don't know shit. Lung Ruakshu's words made the Wen family head fly into a rage. The veins on his forehead were throbbing. He really didn't expect the woman in front of him to be so eloquent. She could come up with so many excuses to rob money. This was really infuriating. You don't even understand such simple logic? I really don't know how you managed to live for so long. Lung Ruashue sighed speechlessly. With her sigh, everyone present could not help but lower their heads and laugh secretly. Their shoulders that were shaking nonstop revealed the emotions that they were trying their best to hide. The Wen family head's face was so angry that it turned red and white. You. The Wen family head pointed at Lung Ruashue and was so angry that he was at a loss for words. Shuea, it's still possible to get money from someone else, but it's not that easy to get money from his pocket. Why don't I just suffer a loss from this mute sigh? Why is my life so bitter? At this moment, the first elder spoke in a well-mannered manner. At the same time, he even used his sleeve to pretend to wipe his tears. His words were even more pitiful. However, the Wen family head's expression turned even uglier. Great elder, you can't be so honest. The Wen family doesn't lack money. Of course, we don't lack money either. However, we can't miss out on the compensation. Otherwise, who would dare to invite him to our house in the future with his destructive abilities? Lung Ruashue persuaded impatiently. Then what should we do? If he doesn't want to compensate, do you think I can force him with a knife? The great elder pretended to be clueless, his face full of worry. It's fine if they don't want to compensate us. We could just ask the Wen family to leave. Lung Ruashue said impolitely. This wasn't good, was it? There's so many monsters out there. If something happens to them, the great elder was in a difficult position, and he did not continue. Thanks, first elder. Your house has limited space, and it's already a little crowded with so many people. Now that the Wen family head has destroyed everyone's place of residence, he's not willing to compensate us. He clearly doesn't want everyone to rest well. Since his thoughts are so despicable, why should we be polite to the Wen family? Lung Ruashue analyzed. Her words made everyone break out in cold sweat, and their heads hung lower. They could all tell that this girl was deliberately causing trouble for the Wen family. Hence, it was best for them to draw a clear line with the Wen family now. Otherwise, they would be in trouble as well. After hearing Lung Ruakshu's words, the Wen family head's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. His shrewd eyes were burning with flames of anger as he rushed towards Lung Ruashue. Just as he was about to make a move, he was stopped by a pair of strong arms. What, old god of plagues, you want to bully the weak? I'm warning you, if you dare to touch a single hair on my precious daughter's head, it'll make you pay. The person who stopped him was the master of the Ning family. In fact, he had come out of the room with the great elder, but he had been hiding in the corner to watch the show. When he saw that the old plague was about to make a move on Shui, he jumped out. Otherwise, he would have continued to squint. It's not that I'm bullying the weak. She's the one who's going too far. Master Wen looked at Master Ning with a headache and gritted his teeth. Although this old man's injuries were not light, he was also injured. Therefore, if they really fought, he was not absolutely sure that he could defeat this old thing from the Ning family. How is she going too far? I saw everything just now. I'm very sure that she was very polite to you, but you were the one who refused to compensate her. The Ning family head said with certainty, and his words made the one family head even angrier. He'll also say something fair. Old God of Plagues, you're in the wrong in this matter. Your one family doesn't lack this little bit of money, so what's the big deal with compensating us? The head of the Chung family, who had walked out from the crowd, added fuel to the fire. They're right. Old God of Plagues, you have to admit to your mistakes. How can you renege on your debt? You're the head of the Wen family. So many eyes are watching your every move. You don't want the Wen family's reputation to be ruined, do you? The master of the Yin family, who had come along, also hit him when he was down. You guys, the Wen family head was so angry. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Fuck. So it wasn't you guys who paid this amount of money. Otherwise, he didn't believe that these people would be able to take out such a large sum of money without hesitation. It should be known that crystals of various grades were not only the currency in circulation in the divine realm, but they could also be used to assist in cultivation. Top-grade crystals were not cabbages that could be found everywhere. Every piece of top-grade crystal contained an endless amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Thus, even the descendants of clans with important positions in the 8 divine regions might not be able to get a few pieces in 100 years. Now, this person had asked for 1,000,000 pieces. If this wasn't bullying, what was? Moreover, with these old guys who liked to hit him when he was down, it was impossible for him to leave unscathed. However, as long as he asked for the number of crystals that the other party wanted, his heart felt as if it was cut by a knife. If the other party wanted low-grade crystals, he would give it immediately without saying anything. However, what the other party wanted was top-grade crystals. 1,000,000. Not to mention him, even these old guys couldn't give it to him without frowning. At the thought of this, the head of the Wen family suppressed the raging fire in his heart, and the corners of his mouth pulled into an ugly smile. He said with a slight grievance, "Even if you want me to compensate you, you can't ask for such an exorbitant price. Don't tell me that if I ask you to pay 1,000,000 top-grade crystals, you won't feel the pain? My heart doesn't ache." The master of the Ning family was the first to speak. He had compensated so much money before, even more than the old God of Plagues. Didn't he still compensate her without even batting an eyelid? Why couldn't this old man do it? No, he had to make the old plague bleed. Otherwise, he would feel unbalanced. Chapter 1772. Luring the Snake 2. Your Ning family has plenty of money. It's the richest family in the 8 great divine regions. Of course you don't feel the pinch. The head of the Wen family roared in anger. Calm down. Our Ning family has a big business, and we have to feed a lot of people, so we really don't have much money left. However, our Ning family won't go back on our words. It's only right to pay back what we owe, so even if I have to sell everything I have to pay back the debt. Master Ning's words were so righteous that everyone was stunned. Now, they felt some sympathy for Master Wen. It seemed that he had no choice but to compensate. Old God of Plague, Old Man Ning is right. You made the great elder's place into such a mess. So compensation is only natural. Don't say that this place isn't worth that much money. You know, this place was carefully arranged by the great elder. It's his blood and sweat. He's willing to let us live here. We should be grateful. How can we be so ignorant and cause trouble? Do you really want him to kick the Wen family out of the house before you'll be happy? The head of the Chung clan advised, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. It was impossible for this stingy old plague not to bleed today. Thinking of this, he was very happy. Who asked this old man to be such a miser? It was fine for him to take advantage of others, but to make him bleed was simply like taking his life. Now let's see what he can do. The head of the Chung clan gloated inwardly. But you can't ask for 1,000,000 all of a sudden. The head of the Wen family gritted his teeth in case he couldn't control himself and cursed. Is Grand Elder's house not worth this price? Old God of Plagues, your words will make the divine world's blacksmiths bitterly disappointed. If they decide not to forge for your Wen family in a fit of anger, let's see what you can do then. The master of the Een family reminded the Wen family with a smile. In fact, he really hoped that the old God of Plagues would insist on not paying the huge compensation. At that time, the weapon craftsmen of the divine world would definitely have a bad opinion of the Wen family. If they really banned the Wen family's strength would decline by a lot. More importantly, the Wen family did not have a top-notch blacksmith. What does this have to do with this house? I didn't destroy this house. After hearing Master Een's words, Master Wen was stunned for a moment before he asked in confusion. Although you only destroyed the courtyard, the decoration of the courtyard and the whole house are one. Now that the courtyard has been destroyed, the house is naturally not perfect. The Great Elder will have to renovate it again. To be honest, your 1 million yuan may not even be enough. The Een family's master analyzed in an understanding manner. However, Master Wen's face darkened with every word he said. Lung Ruoxue was already laughing in her heart. It seemed like the real, ruthless person was here. In fact, the reason why the master of the Een family said this was because he had been robbed too ruthlessly before. Therefore, now that he met someone who was in the same boat as him, he couldn't help but want to hit him when he was down. He even hoped that the other party's losses would be greater than his. Although this kind of mentality was not very good, he just wanted to see others suffer with him. Therefore, he felt that 1 million top-grade crystals was a little too little. This little money was not even 1/10 of the money he had been robbed. At the thought of this, his resentful eyes drifted to the demon, but he was completely ignored by the demon. When Lung Ruoxue saw the resentful gaze of the Een family's master, she immediately became alert. Could this old man have any thoughts about the evildoer? No, I can't let him have any ideas about the demon. At this moment, a chuckle came from the bottom of Lung Ruoxue's heart. It turned out to be Qing Ju, who had sensed Lung Ruoxue's thoughts and could not help but laugh. Qing Ju, don't laugh. Lung Ruoxue transmitted her voice, feeling a little embarrassed and angry. Good, no smile. Sister, I won't laugh. With that, green vessel disappeared without a trace. Thanks a long while after Master Een finished speaking. Master Wen was so angry that he was speechless. If he didn't say anything, the others wouldn't take the initiative to speak either. Hence, the atmosphere became heavy. After a long time, the head of the Wen family took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. He then said slowly, "What old man Een said makes sense. All right, he'll pay for this 1 million top-grade crystal stones." The head of the Wen family had also thought for a long time before making this decision. Originally, he had not expressed his position for so long because he was afraid that the other party would raise the price. Therefore, after thinking through the pros and cons, he immediately agreed to it, lest these old things scheme against him. When family head, don't let yourself suffer too much. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. Hee. The 1 million yuan was in her hands. Although it was not her money, she was still very happy to be able to get the money from old Mr. Wen. Am not aggrieved. The Wen family head glared at her and said unhappily. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. This wretched girl, she obviously wanted him to go bankrupt, yet she told him not to make things difficult for himself. What is this? Although this huge loss made him feel very pained, he paid 1 million top-grade crystals very quickly. It was in the storage ring that he carried with him. The reason why he paid so quickly was that he wanted to quickly end this matter, in case they had other tricks up their sleeves. By then, he would definitely go crazy. The crowd looked at the mountain-like top-grade crystals of various attributes on the stone table in front of them, exuding a dense spiritual energy. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Wen family was indeed rich. The head of the Wen family actually carried such a huge amount of wealth with him. Was he not afraid of being robbed? However, when they thought of the Wen family head's status in the divinity and his cultivation, their thoughts faded. This must be the so-called the skilled are bold. His strength was there for all to see. Therefore, he was not afraid of any tribulations. However, if he were to encounter people like Lung Ruoxue, he would cry himself to death. At the thought of this, they began to sympathize with the one family head again. At the same time, they were even more determined that they could provoke anyone but those three fellows. They were synonymous with the devil and were two terrifying birds. First Elder, count quickly and see if the number is correct. When Lung Ruoxue saw so many crystal stones, her eyes narrowed into a smile as she urged. Good, they'll count. The Grand Elder's eyes lit up as he looked at the top-grade crystals on the table. As he put the crystals into his storage ring, the number of crystals also appeared in his mind. Immediately, he beamed with joy and said, "Not a single dollar less. Actually, even if I didn't order it, I believe the old god of plagues wouldn't have given me less money. After all, the supreme divinity's mathematics isn't that bad. Even so, we still have to count it. The proper way is to settle the goods with silver." Lung Ruoxue said in a serious tone. "MMH, what little girl Shue, her said makes sense." The Great Elder nodded repeatedly, the smile on his face almost unconcealable. Although he was not short of money, no one would complain about having more money. Looking at the old man and the young man echoing each other, the one family head's face darkened and he said coldly, "Since the bill has been settled, it'll go back to my room." He didn't want to stay in the courtyard any longer, and he didn't want to see this hateful woman who made him bleed. Chapter 1773, Luring the Snake, 3. With that, the one family's head left with his hands on his sleeves. This time, Lung Ruoxue did not stop him. "Shue, that old god of plagues is a vengeful person, and I'm afraid you've already angered him, so you have to be careful in everything you do." As he watched the one family head's back view, the First Elder's previous excitement was replaced by a slightly worried expression. "Great Elder, you're overthinking it. Even if I didn't make him bleed, he'd still have his eyes on me. Since that's the case, why should I care about his anger? Anyway, I don't have to worry about my debts." Lung Ruoxue was very open-minded. However, more importantly, she knew that it was impossible for her to be friends with the Wen family. Hence, she did not care if she had offended the head of the Wen family. She had already beaten up quite a number of the Wen family members. It was no big deal to offend the biggest member of the Wen family. Ha! What Shue said is right. That old god of plagues is not a big deal. With Godfather here, he won't dare to bully you. Master Ning laughed after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. "Little girl, I heard you also beat up an elder of our Chung clan." At this time, the head of the Chung family also said half seriously, half jokingly, What? Does the Chung clan head also want to avenge his own elder?" Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile, looking as if she was ready to bring it on. "How could I be so rude? You guys must have done something wrong to teach him a lesson. You guys did the right thing." The head of the Chung clan said hurriedly. He was not as brainless as the old god of plagues. Once someone told him that his own family member had been beaten up, he would not care and rush over to settle the score with the other party. Especially when the person who beat up someone was Lung Ruoxue, that little girl. Naturally, he would not come over to question the other party. Lung Ruoxue was very satisfied with the attitude of the Chung clan's clan head. She smiled and said, "The Chung family's head is still the most understanding and considerate, unlike some old muddle-headed worms who deserve to go bankrupt." "MH, that's right. But, little girl, that old god of plagues is very rich. Isn't it a little too little for you to ask for $1 million from him?" The head of the Chung clan said in a low voice. However, his soft voice was heard clearly by the family heads, the First Elder, and Uncle Long. They broke out in cold sweat. Was he planning to make the old god of plagues bleed? Although they did not object to it, there had to be a good reason. Otherwise, anyone with eyes would know that they wanted to rob them. There's still a long way to go. It's better to make a long-term effort. Otherwise, if we exploit him too much all at once, he'll rebound. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Her words caused the clan heads, First Elder, and Uncle Long to break out in even more cold sweat. Ruthless. This girl was really ruthless. This was the only thought in their minds at this time. However, They didn't object to scheming against the old god of plagues. Who asked that guy to be so rich that he carried 1,000,000 top-grade crystals with him? This was clearly telling others to come and rob him. If they didn't make a move, wouldn't they disappoint the old god of plagues? Schwerer, that old god of plagues brought so much money with him and gave it to us without even blinking. I believe he must have a lot more on him, so don't miss this opportunity. The master of the Ning family couldn't help but remind him. When Lung Ruoxue heard Master Ning's words, a single word appeared in her heart: hate the rich. Her godfather was definitely an enemy of the rich. In fact, she was very clear that the money he had on him was definitely not less than the Wen family headess. However, they seemed to prefer to see the Wen family in trouble. Lung Ruoxue took out a piece of paper from her bangle and passed it to the first elder. When the first elder saw it, his eyes immediately widened, and he looked at Lung Ruoxue in disbelief. The great elder's hand trembled as he held the piece of paper, and he stuttered. Woo! He had finally seen what a businessman was like. This little girl was really good at making money. No wonder she was richer than him. This fact made him feel deeply inferior. What's wrong? Seeing the first elder's appearance, the curiosity of the master of the Ning family was also aroused. He anxiously snatched the paper from the first elder's hand, and then his eyes widened. The others were also curious. Old man, don't tell me you're going to take my money too. After a long while, Master Ning gritted his teeth and asked, What kind of money? The great elder didn't have time to answer before the Chung clan's patriarch impatiently asked, We'll have to charge a fee for staying here in the future. The master of the Ning family said with a black face. Then he glared at the initiator, his precious goddaughter, with hidden bitterness. He had just gloated over the misfortune of that old god of plagues, and now it was his turn to bleed. Thinking of the number of Ning family members in this house, his heart bled. Thanks, fees? Old man, we've known each other for so many years, and you still want to collect money for me to stay here? When the patriarch of the Chung clan heard the word fee, he immediately became vigilant and asked with slight dissatisfaction. It is, old man, if you accept my money now, then I'll also collect money from you when you live with our Ning family in the future. The master of the Ning family threatened. MMH, they'll also collect money for you to come to our Chung family. The head of the Chung family immediately agreed. When did I say that I'm going to take your money? Their words made the first elder so angry that he blew his beard and glared. It's good that you don't accept. Hearing this, the two of them immediately felt relieved. Old man, if you don't accept their money, you can't accept mine either. At this moment, the master of the Yin family said anxiously, Don't worry, those who are on good terms with me are my guests, and I'll let you all stay here for free. Is that okay? The great elder was helpless. It seemed that Xue Er's money-making plan was going to fail in his hands. After all, most of the people living in the house were his old friends and their clansmen. Even if he wanted to make money, he couldn't do it now. Moreover, it was definitely not an easy task to earn money from these stingy old things. He had a deep understanding of this. This is more like it. With the first elder's assurance, the family heads were even more at ease. Great elder. As for the fees, they'll leave it to baby. It's very talented in making money, so ITLL definitely take care of it for you. However, once it charges, I'm afraid it will cause some people to be dissatisfied, so you'd better be mentally prepared. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue reminded him. With that, she took out the treasure from the bracelet. Don't worry, I want care, but they're just idle people. It's only right to charge them some money. The great elder said disapprovingly. Then, he stroked the baby's soft fur and said with a kind face, Treasure, he'll leave the matter of making money for Grandpa to you. Grandpa won't let you work for free. He'll give you a commission. Little Xue Er's beastie was just so cute. He sighed as he touched it. Grandpa, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. As for what the commission is, forget it. We're family, so don't say such things. Baby said very sensibly. It was very clear that it would not be able to get much money from the first elder, and it was useless for it to ask for money. Its lovely master would definitely not want this money, so it could sell well without any scruples. When the great elder heard what the baby said, he was also very happy. He liked the words family, right? They were family, so there was no need to be so formal. After that, Baby chased First Elder and the rest back to their room. After all, it was inconvenient for them to stay here. Then he got Lung Ruoxue to move Ling and a few other beasts out to help him. Not long after, the money-making plan officially began. Although everyone was dissatisfied with the sudden charge, in order not to be kicked out, they still paid the money honestly. Those who didn't have money also signed an IOU and signed an unfair contract with interest. After that, they cherished their time in the house even more. This time, the treasurer did not calculate their expenses in the secret realm separately. After all, these people were much richer than those that had saved before. In that case, there was no need to do anything unnecessary. Although there weren't many people who could collect money from the Great Elder, the money they received wasn't much less than the previous people. With this result, Baby's satisfied tail was about to rise to the sky. However, the Wen family and the Yao family had suffered the most this time. At least 2/3 of the money that Baby had received belonged to them. The two family heads hated this fact to the core, but what could they do about living under someone else's roof? Unless they paid the money obediently, they would be chased out. After weighing the pros and cons, they could only swallow their grievances. However, the enmity between them and Lung Ruoxue had also deepened. In the room, Lung Ruoxue, the demon, and Uncle Long sat in front of the table, drinking tea. Little girl, it seems that our plan has failed. After taking so much money from them, they were only a little dissatisfied, but none of them dared to make trouble. AI. Uncle Long was a little depressed. In fact, the reason why they did all these things was to force the hidden chess piece to reveal itself. But who knew that the hidden chess piece had been holding back? This gave him a headache. It seemed that the hidden chess piece was also a cunning person. Otherwise, how could he be so calm? Chapter 1774. The Fish Scale Flower 1. Uncle Long. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. Compared to Uncle Long's anxiety, she was much calmer. She knew very well that the hidden chess piece would not be discovered so easily. Otherwise, he would have been with Godfather and the others for so many days. How could he not have been exposed at all? However, if he stayed in this room, it would be impossible for the hidden chess piece to act rashly or send news to the outside world. Hence, she was not in a hurry. After all, she was most worried about the safety of Godfather and the others. Now that her Godfather and the others were fine, she was relieved. As for when she could find the hidden chess piece, it was not up to her to decide. What other plans do you have, little girl? Uncle Long raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. Uncle Long, if that hidden chess piece can keep his cool and doesn't contact the outside world, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to catch him. So, our next step is to leave this house and give him time to contact us. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't be able to contact him even if they wanted to in this house. Lung Ruoxue explained with a smile. Unless one was the owner of this house, no one could pass any information to the outside world. Go out? But they've all paid, and they're all like frightened birds. It won't be easy to get them out. Uncle Long said worriedly. I've already asked my baby to inform them that except for alchemists and artifact masters, everyone has to stay outside the house during the day. Lung Ruoxue said softly. However, just as she finished speaking, they heard a commotion outside. The three of them stood up and looked at each other. Then, they smiled at each other. Little girl, you're really looking for trouble. Uncle Long laughed. This was for the best. His hands had been a little itchy recently, and it would be a waste not to beat up these sandbags that came to his door. They'll have a hard time in the future. Lung Ruoxue said mysteriously. Well done, little girl. Let's go out and watch the show. Uncle Long said impatiently. And Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then, the three of them walked out of the door. At this time, the Great Elder's room was full of people. Baby was lying in the Great Elder's arms with a face full of fear. His small body was trembling, and his beautiful silver eyes were watery, looking very pitiful. Great Elder, you have to give us an explanation. What does this little fox mean by her words? A fierce-looking man asked like a fiend. When the first elder heard this, he stroked the baby's fur to comfort it. Then he looked at the man in front of him with a slight headache and said with a slight displeasure, "You've scared our baby." Why was he so loud? I'm not deaf. The man who spoke was stunned and cursed in his heart. Fuck. His loud voice wasn't the main point, okay? He was here to denounce him for his crimes, but this damn old man actually complained that he was too loud? What the hell is this? Chung Biao, for the sake of your ancestor, they'll let you off for scaring my baby. You broke into my room so rudely, so they'll let you off too. Now, take these people and leave, or don't blame me for being impolite. The great elder ignored Chung Biao's sour face and continued to warn him. In fact, he was a little resentful in his heart. It should be known that he had the best relationship with the Ning family, Chung family, and Yin family's patriarchs. However, this little brat from the Chung family had actually become a gunner for them. How could he not be angry? Although he still didn't know why they were so angry. No matter what it was, the Chung family shouldn't be the one standing up for him. They were clearly trying to tear him down. When he thought of this, the anger in his heart rose. AI, someone from the Chung family. He was really stupid. Thanks, great elder. We're here to seek justice. Chung Biao straightened his back and looked at the people behind him, speaking with a righteous expression. What justice? Did I do something wrong to you? The first elder said impatiently. Of course, the great elder didn't do anything to let us down. It's this damned little fox that made the decision to throw us out. Chung Biao roared in anger. The moment he thought of this, the anger in his heart burst out. Kick you out? What was the meaning of this? Did you not pay? The first elder asked in confusion. Then he lowered his head and looked at the treasure in his arms. We've all paid. When everyone heard the first elder's words, they hurriedly said, as long as they thought of the price, they still felt the pain right now. Since you've already paid, this must be a misunderstanding. Besides, I believe that baby has its own reasons for doing this, right? A treasure? The great elder asked in a protective manner. Master said that if they hide in the house all day, they'll lose the meaning of coming to the mystic realm. So he asked me to tell them that from tomorrow onwards, they'll go out during the day and come back to this house at night. It's not to chase them out. Moreover, this big guy didn't pay and brought people here to cause trouble. He's too much. Grandpa, is this the so-called ungrateful wolf? Chase out those who haven't paid, in case they don't know what's good for them. Bao Bao said with some righteous indignation. Her beautiful silver eyes flashed with a trace of slyness, but she still put on a pitiful and lovable appearance. As soon as Baby finished speaking, before First Elder could say anything, the crowd started to blow up again. What? Is there a Chung family member who didn't pay? Someone didn't pay. Why do we have to pay? The crowd chimed in, expressing their dissatisfaction. Those who didn't pay are those who are close to Grandpa. Can you compare? If you have any objections, I can return the money to you. In the future, it's up to you whether you want to live or die. Baby said disapprovingly. Then, it continued to speak. It's for your own good that I let you leave this house during the day. Don't forget what you came to the secret realm for. How could these magical places not have any danger? One must know that wealth came from danger. You don't even dare to take the slightest risk, and you still want to have a fortuitous encounter? Isn't that just daydreaming? Look at all of you now. Where's the demeanor of a strong master? My lovely master's subordinates aren't as strong as you, but they're more courageous than you. If word of your rat guts gets out, you'll be the ones who lose face. As for my master's good intentions, it's fine if you don't appreciate them. In any case, my lovely master doesn't expect you to shed tears of gratitude. In addition, if you're still dissatisfied with this, they'll return the money to you. You know, we don't rely on your money to live. We accept money because we don't have any friendship. If we help you for no reason, it's not impossible for you to owe us a favor. However, I'm afraid that some people are ungrateful wolves. When you're in trouble, you'll ask for help, but when you're safe, you'll turn your back on us. So, naturally, we don't want to waste that effort to make you owe us anything. So we'll just take some money. Let's forget about this. but you have to know that your lives can't be bought with money. The treasure spoke eloquently, causing everyone to be stunned. The great elder did not expect the treasure to be so eloquent, and after a moment of shock, he smiled proudly. Chapter 1775. Fish Scale Flower 2. After a long while, the people who were confused by his words finally reacted, and someone directly asked, "Wait, we're staying in the great elder's house, and the money we collected is given to the great elder. What does it have to do with your master?" "Hee hee, you've reminded me." Baby laughed evilly and continued, "Now, I have some news to announce. My lovely master has a way to deal with those monsters, and will also find a way to get you out of here. So, you have to sign up within 3 days before you leave the secret realm. As for the registration fee, it's 2 million top-grade crystal stones per person, and I guarantee that you'll be able to get out safely." Originally, Treasure didn't intend to accept their money, but these people just had to remind it. Since that was the case, if it didn't accept it, wouldn't it disappoint these people? 2 million? You're robbing me. Chung Biao's eyes were wide open as he asked in disbelief. "Do you think 2 million is a lot? Do you know how many monsters there are here? How many can you kill? I still have to rely on my master to kill them. If I didn't take care of you, I wouldn't have asked for less than 2 million. Baby snorted coldly. It had decided that the great elder could exempt the Chung family's accommodation fees, but the Chung family's escort fees, it would definitely not be exempted because the Chung family had angered it. The consequences would be severe if his baby got angry. Then Bao Bao added, "This 2 million is just the fee to take you out of the secret realm. But the premise of leaving the secret realm safely is that you must be alive. In addition, if you need our protection, you have to pay another 2 million top-grade crystals. Otherwise, you will be responsible for your own safety in the secret realm." When Baby said these words, his face was full of disappointment and resentment. It didn't intend to accept these 2 sums of money, but these people kept forcing it. Since that was the case, why should it be polite? If it didn't make them go bankrupt, it would write the word treasure upside down. Everyone was completely dumbfounded when they heard what the baby said. First Elder, who was holding onto the treasure, was drenched in cold sweat. He wasn't afraid. After all, Lung Ruoxue would never accept his money. He was ashamed. Look at how ruthless this little beast is when it slaughters people. If their craftsman's guild had someone who was so good at making money, the 8 great divine regions would be inferior. At this moment, Uncle Long, who was at the back of the crowd, was also looking at the treasure with admiration. He whispered to Lung Ruoxue, "Little girl, this treasure has your style. It's truly worthy of being your beastie." Hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines. What did he mean by having her style? She wasn't the one who asked him to take the money. Sob. She was taking the blame for her baby. She felt very wronged, but she knew very well that her baby had accumulated so much money for her, so it wasn't an injustice for her to take the blame. After all, almost everyone knew that she loved money, so it didn't matter if she did it. "Shui, it looks like Baby is annoyed." The demon chuckled and said in an understanding manner. Lung Ruoxue nodded. The more this fire burned, the better. Otherwise, how could that hidden chess piece fish in troubled waters? At this point, Lung Ruoxue gave the demon and Uncle Long a look. The 3 of them then quietly left the Grand Elder's room, leaving everything to Baby to handle. After returning to her room, Lung Ruoxue was about to push the door open and enter. Suddenly, the door of the room next door opened and a handsome man walked out. Wasn't this the Alchemist Guild's vice guild leader, Shen Nuo? He was actually here. This surprised Lung Ruoxue. However, she immediately recalled that Shen Nuo should be the person in charge of the Alchemist Guild's trip to the Mystic Realm. Hence, it was not strange to see him here. "Shui, you know him?" The demon saw that Shui had actually stared at another man for so long, and the sour bubbles in his heart emerged again. "Thanks, An." Lung Ruoxue nodded. Coincidentally, at this moment, Shen Nuo felt Lung Ruoxue's gaze on her, and she raised her head as well. "President Shun, long time no see." Lung Ruoxue greeted Shen Nua. However, Shen Nua's face was filled with confusion. He did not remember knowing this woman before him. Do we know each other? Shen Nua asked uncertainly, frowning slightly. I'm Lung Ruoxue. We've met once in Plentiful City, and I used the name Lung Ruhan. Lung Ruoxue reminded. Arg, I remember now. You took a disguise pill? Shen Nua was suddenly enlightened. The current Lung Ruoxue and the one he had met in Plentiful City were two completely different extremes. Furthermore, that Lung Ruoxue had left a deep impression on him. Although they had only met once, he had heard a lot about her from his good friend Lui Wei. Therefore, he had been thinking about when he would be able to get to know her for real. Who would have thought that their next meeting would actually be in this mystic realm? However, if they were not fated to meet here, he did not know if he would have the chance to see her again. And Lung Ruoxue nodded. Miss Lung, back then you asked me to transfer the letter of exchange Gu. I have already passed it to him, but you have already left the divine realm. He has found nothing. Shen Nua took the initiative to explain. Thank you, President Shun. Not long after I found Godfather, I left the God world and continued to cultivate. I only came back to the God world after I became a god. I didn't think that we would actually meet again in this secret realm. Lung Ruoxue laughed, as if she was very happy. However, the evil-looking man's face darkened. Miss Lung, this mystic realm is extremely dangerous. Why are you here? Shen Nua asked curiously. Actually, what he wanted to say was that her ability was too low and she should not have come here to take the risk. However, he was afraid that he would hurt Lung Ruoxue's pride, so he did not say it directly. I'm here to save Godfather and the others. Lung Ruoxue said honestly. Oh. Shen Nua nodded and didn't say much. However, from his reaction, Lung Ruoxue could tell that Shen Nua didn't agree with this. She didn't even need to guess to know that it was because her strength was too low. Guild leader Shun, one of my maidservants has been poisoned and is still unconscious. Do you know what kind of poison it is? Lung Ruoxue changed the topic. Even though she had been researching the poison Suiju was infected with when she had nothing to do, she had come up empty-handed, and the book that her master had left for her did not have any records of this poison. Now that she had met Shen Nua, she would naturally not let this opportunity slip by. After all, Shen Nua was one of the best alchemists in the firmament. Poisoned? Tell me about the symptoms. Shen Nua was obviously more interested in this matter. She was bitten by a flower. At first, the flower looked very beautiful, but when it was picked, it turned into a small red snake. After the small snake bit her, it disappeared, and my maidservant fell into a coma. Lung Ruoxue explained simply. Miss Lung, I've seen this poison before. The moment she heard Lung Ruoxue's description, Shen Nua knew what kind of poison it was. However, she was helpless against it. Chapter 1776, Fish Scale Flower, 3. Does guild leader Shen know what kind of poison it is? Seeing that Shen Nua actually knew, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly asked. The poison appeared 100 years ago. At that time, someone found an unusually beautiful flower on a mountain and picked it. Then, he was poisoned and fell unconscious. His companion saw this and immediately sent him to the Alchemist Guild headquarters. At that time, it was the first time we had seen this poison, so there was no cure at all. In less than 3 months, the poison took effect and the person died. His death was very miserable. All his flesh and blood were sucked dry, and in the end, not even a bone was left. Shen Nua could not bear to say that. However, for the past 100 years, the alchemists of our Alchemist Guild headquarters have been researching the antidote for this poison, and we've finally found some progress. Shen Nua added. Really? Lung Ruoxue, who was initially a little disappointed, immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise when she heard Shen Nua's words. However, even if we manage to develop the formula for the antidote, we can't make it, Shen Nua said with a face full of shame. He was afraid that Lung Ruoxue's hopes were too high, so he could only make his words more clear. What? Lung Ruoxue was a little puzzled. Shen Nua and Lui Wei were the vice guild masters of the Alchemist Guild headquarters, and at the same time, they were also one of the top alchemists in the god realm. How could they not be able to refine the antidote? Could it be? At the thought of this, Lung Roashua spoke in an understanding manner. President Shun, if you need any herbs, you can tell me. I might have them. From her point of view, there could only be two main reasons why they were unable to refine the antidote after researching it. The first was that the medicinal herbs were not complete, and the second was that the alchemist's alchemy skills could not keep up. However, Shun Nuo and Luiwe were the best alchemists in the god realm, and in addition to that mysterious alchemist guild chief, there should be no medicinal pill that they could not refine. Therefore, the biggest possibility that they could not refine the antidote was that they lacked precious medicinal herbs. Young Lady Lung, the main ingredient used to concoct that kind of antidote pill, can no longer be described as precious because it has already gone extinct in the divine realm. Shinua sighed lightly and said helplessly, "What is it?" Lung Roashua asked, unwilling to give up. Fish scale flower. However, the fish scale flowers had disappeared from the divine realm 10,000 years ago. Shinua said, feeling a little embarrassed. He was the one who gave Lung Roashua hope, but he was unable to help her, and this made him feel extremely guilty. Other than the fish scale flower, do you need any other precious herbs? When Lung Roashua heard that it was a fish scale flower, she felt much more at ease. That was because she had a fish scale flower in her hands, and it had lived for at least 10,000 years. I don't need anything else, but there's no place to get this fish scale flower. Shinua sighed. Just this main ingredient was already enough to give them a headache. If there was another precious ingredient, wouldn't they be depressed to death? President Shun, they'll think of a way to get the fish scale flower. However, I want to know, since you have never refined this antidote pill, can you guarantee that this antidote pill will cure my servant? Lung Roashua asked worriedly. This fish scale flower is a wondrous herb. It can be used as both a medicine and a poison. After many years of research, we've found that the person and your maidservant were poisoned by a very rare flower poison. If we use the fish scale flower as the main ingredient to refine an antidote pill, it will be able to counter the flower poison and fight it with poison. Therefore, the fish scale flower is the best choice. Shinua said very seriously. Their alchemist guild headquarters had poured in all their manpower and resources to research that kind of strange poison for so many years, so naturally, they would not do it for free. Furthermore, this result was also a conclusion that they had obtained after verifying it with many parties. Miss Lung, although I can't guarantee that the antidote that we have developed can cure your maidservant's poison 100%, I can guarantee that the success rate of the antidote is above 80%. After all, this is a newly discovered poison, and the antidote has never been tested on human bodies. So, I can't guarantee 100%. I hope you can understand. Shinua continued. Then let's try. Lung Roashua was helpless. Even though she did not want Sueju to become a lab rat, Shinua's words were very true. Furthermore, she could not find anyone who had been poisoned by the same poison as Sueju. Hence, she could only let Sueju test it out personally. All right, but is Miss Lung really confident in finding the fish scale flower? Seeing how confident Lung Roashua was, Shinua asked with uncertainty. And Lung Roashua nodded. Although she really wanted to ask Shinua for the antidote's formula to refine it for herself, that was something that belonged to the Alchemist Guild headquarters. She was afraid that they would not give it to her so easily. Hence, she did not plan to ask for it. Then we have to hurry. I'm afraid that the poisoned person can't last more than 3 months. Shinua urged. The person who was poisoned last time had died 3 months later. All right, Lung Roashua replied. After that, she informed Shinua and brought the demon back to her room. Thanks. Once she returned to her room, she entered the bracelet and went straight to the herb field. At this moment, Qingju was tending to his favorite herbs in the field. When he saw Lung Roashua, he immediately rushed over. Sister. Qingju pounced into Lung Roashua's arms and called out happily. Qingju, I'm here to look for the fish scale flower. Lung Roashua said directly. Sister, are you looking for me? At this moment, a pretty and tender little doll appeared in front of Lung Ruoxue. The little doll was even smaller than Qingju. It was chubby and pink. On its delicate little face, a pair of big eyes with clear blacks and whites shone brightly. At this moment, he was looking at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of admiration. There was even a touch of pink on his cheeks. He was the spirit of the fish scale flower. When Lung Ruoxue first saw the fish scale flower, it was just a dried flower. She thought that Qingju would keep it in the storeroom, but he actually buried the dried flower in the soil. Later on, she found out from Qingju that the fish scale flower had already developed a spirit. It was just that its body was too damaged, so it showed signs of withering. That was also a form of self-protection for the fish scale flower. With Qingju's meticulous care and the strong recovery ability of the fish scale flower, it did not take long for it to transform into a human. Hence, there were 2 more cute little fellows in her bracelet. As for the other one, it was naturally the 10,000-year-long Su grass that she had obtained previously. Little you, big sister would like to ask for a petal from you. Lung Ruoxue caressed the fish scale flower's little head as she consoled them. Even though the fish scale flower now belonged to her, she had always doted on these little fellows and treated them as equal humans. She had given them enough respect, so these little things were naturally extremely close to her. All right. The fish scale flower nodded without hesitation. Then, a fiery red flame petal appeared on her fair palm, and she handed it to Lung Ruoxue. Sister, these leaves are for you too. I've lost it after so many years, so it's no longer of any use to me. However, it's still a good material for making pills. Then, the fish scale flower spoke again. This time, pieces of crystal clear green leaves appeared in his palm. Each piece was as exquisite as an exquisite piece of art. Then Big Sister won't stand on ceremony. Lung Ruoxue kept the flower petals and leaves as she spoke in embarrassment. Hee. Big Sister, you don't have to be embarrassed. These are all normal drops. They're no longer of any use to me, but they're very useful to you. The fish-scaled flower said. He knew his own value. In fact, not only him, but all the other heavenly treasures knew it too. It was also because of this that they could not live in peace with humans. The main reason was that humans were too greedy. If every human could treat them as well as their big sister and give them a place to live, they would be very willing to live in peace with humans. Unfortunately, this could only become their beautiful wish. However, now that he had met his big sister, so he was lucky. It's indeed useful for big sister. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Then, she chatted with the 2 little fellows for a while more before leaving the bracelet. When she handed the petal and 2 leaves to Shun Nua's eyes widened in disbelief. She held the petal in her hand and observed it repeatedly for confirmation. The petals were the size of a palm, and the inside was smooth like jade. The outside was like fish scales shaped like a sheet. The flower was red, bright like fire, and this was the most important characteristic of fish scale flowers. After Shin Nua confirmed it, she brought the petal to her nose and sniffed it. A faint fragrance wafted into her nose. From this, it could be seen that this petal was very fresh and had been preserved very well. Miss Lung, this flower petal... Shin Nua wanted to say something but stopped. Actually, he wanted to ask Lung Ruoxue where she had gotten this fish scale flower from. However, after some thought, he felt that it was a little abrupt, so he did not continue after saying that. Is there a problem with the petals? Lung Ruoxue played dumb. No, I didn't tea. These petals are very fresh, and it's the best time to refine pills. How could there be a problem? Shin Nua said with some black lines. Is that one piece enough? Lung Ruoxue asked with a light smile. Enough. That's enough. Shin Nua couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. How precious was the fish scale flower? A small piece was already enough, let alone a whole piece. However, he was a little curious. If he said that one piece was not enough, what else did Lung Ruoxue plan to give him? Chapter 1777, Exposed, 1. In reality, if he really said that it was not enough, Lung Ruoxue would not give it to him anymore. She would even blacklist him. After all, Lung Ruoxue was also an alchemist. Although she had never refined a pill with the fish scale flower as the main ingredient, the amount of medicinal pills used was basically the same. The more precious the herb was, the less the amount needed. On the other hand, the herbs that were in high demand were ordinary herbs. Hence, if he really dared to say that one petal was not enough, if that was the case, his friendship with Lung Ruoxue would come to an end. Hence, the facts had proven that his character could still withstand the test. Since that's enough, then he'll have to trouble President Shun. These 2 leaves will be my payment. Is that okay? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Yes, I can. Shenua was very happy. The most valuable part of the fish scale flower was its petals, but its leaves were also good ingredients for refining pills. Furthermore, their value was not low. Miss Lung, am going to refine the pill. After Shenua finished speaking, she did not even send her guest off, and immediately went into her temporary pill refining room. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she laughed and returned to her room to wait for news. The moment she returned to her room, Lung Ruoxue was hugged by the demon. Looking at the evildoer's gloomy face, Lung Ruoxue was slightly stunned. She could not help but ask, "Evildoer, who made you angry? Who else could it be besides you?" The demon said in an unpleasant tone, I didn't do anything." Lung Ruoxue felt wronged. "Do you have a good relationship with that Shingai?" She even stared at him for so long. "He's old and ugly. What's there to look at?" The demon was going to settle the score after autumn. He had seen that Shui had been busy with the fish scale flowers, so he had endured it until now. When Lung Ruoxue heard the demon's words, her forehead was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, finished. This vinegar jar had acted up again. Although Shenua looked like she was in her 40s, she was still a handsome uncle. In his words, she was old and ugly. However, at this point, she could not speak up for Shenua. Otherwise, the demon would definitely be even more persistent. Furthermore, she was very good at coaxing the demon, so she was not flustered. "Demon, you've misunderstood. I don't have a good relationship with President Shun. This is only our 2nd time meeting each other. Moreover, he's old and ugly. Why are you jealous?" Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. "Then why did you stare at him for so long?" The demon half squinted his bright black eyes and said with slight displeasure, "No way. When talking to someone, it's polite to look at them. I can't lower my head and talk to him. That would make me look like I'm not presentable. Don't you think so?" Lung Ruoxue argued. You're right." The demon snorted coldly. Although he knew that Shui was quibbling, he could not say anything. This made him quite depressed. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Lung Ruoxue was overjoyed and opened the door without thinking. Seeing that it was Uncle Long and Baby, she was overjoyed. "Uncle Long, quickly come in," Lung Ruoxue urged. Uncle Long looked at Lung Ruoxue, then at the evil-looking man with an unfriendly expression. He then carried his baby into the room. The moment Baby saw Lung Ruoxue, although it wanted to jump into her arms, it chose to stay in Uncle Long's arms when it saw the evil-looking man's dark face, in case it lost its life. "Little girls, what's wrong?" Uncle Long asked curiously as he felt the strange atmosphere between the two. "Thanks, nothing, Uncle Long. Didn't you go back to your room? Why are you here again?" Lung Ruoxue asked in bewilderment. Baby want to find me, and now I'm its helper," Uncle Long said with pride. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead. She thought to herself, Uncle Long doesn't have to be so happy even if he's just a hired thug, right? She had always thought that Uncle Long was an expert who didn't care about anything. However, after getting to know him, she realized that Uncle Long was also an expert who wanted to see the world in chaos. At first, she couldn't accept this fact, but now she was much calmer. "Cute master, there are so many people who want to kill your baby. Woo, if it wasn't for Uncle Long, you wouldn't have been able to see your cute baby again." At this moment, Baby's silver eyes were filled with tears as he said pitifully. That pitiful little appearance was really pitiful. What's going on? Lung Rawashue was a little surprised. She had thought that her baby had already settled those people. It's like this. Back in the Grand Elder's room, I was almost done with those people. Many of them paid us to protect them and bring them out of the secret realm. However, a few people from the Yao and One families came later. When they heard the amount we charged, they immediately turned hostile and even encouraged everyone to kill me. I hid at Uncle Long's place and escaped. Otherwise, my lovely master would never have been able to see your treasure again. Baby said with tears in his eyes. So, the Yao and One families don't need our protection or help to get them out of the secret realm? Lung Rawashue asked with uncertainty. At least half of them don't need us to protect them or bring them out of the secret realm, and some of these people include the elders of the Chung family. Of the 8 divine domains, only the Ning and En families don't object. Baby reported. Since that's the case, refund them their accommodation fees. We don't care anymore. Lung Rawashue said emotionlessly. All right. Baby laughed evilly. Returning their accommodation fees also meant that their master would not care about their life or death. Hee, that's great. It had long been disdainful of those people's superior attitude. Moreover, the 8 divine regions were nothing great. If they wanted to leave this place and keep their lives here, they had to rely on master. It was a pity that they couldn't understand. There would come a time when they would regret it. At that time, it would charge more money than it was now, it thought secretly. Cute master, I asked those alchemists and blacksmiths to hand over pills or equipment. It's considered giving them special treatment. After converting it to money, it's almost half of what those aristocratic families have. So, they're all very satisfied and didn't cause any trouble. Baby said again. Thank you for your hard work, baby. Lung Rawashue patted her baby's head and consoled him. It's not hard to work for my lovely master. My baby was just a little frightened. Baby lowered his head and said, Baby, don't worry. He'll get justice for you. Lung Rawashue promised. Just as she finished her sentence, someone knocked on the door again. Lung Rawashue gave the evildoer a look. The evildoer understood her meaning and stood up to open the door. Outside the door were Master Ning, First Elder, and Master Chung. Shui, Godfather is here to see you. As the master of the Ning family spoke, he strode into the room, followed by the great elder and the master of the Chung family. Godfather, we just separated. Lung Rawashue said helplessly. Chapter 1778. Exposed too. So what if I can't come and see you? The master of the Ning family deliberately pulled a long face and said with some displeasure. Sure, but, Godfather, I still hope that you can have a good rest, because we will be leaving here tomorrow to meet up with Fonda and the others. Lung Rawashue reminded. Why are you in such a hurry? The master of the Ning family was surprised. I'm afraid that Fonda and the others will be worried if I don't go back for too long. Lung Rawashue said honestly. Shui has a point. We should leave this place. At this moment, First Elder chimed in. After he finished speaking, he even shot a look at the Chung clan's clan head. However, Lung Rawashue pretended not to see First Elder and the Chung clan's clan head exchanging flirtatious looks. So, there's still one day left. You should go back to your room and rest. Otherwise, you won't have the energy to deal with those monsters. Lung Rawashue smiled faintly. Shui, I have something to discuss with you. Seeing that Lung Rawashue wasn't even looking at him, the head of the Chung clan had no choice but to speak directly. Patriarch Chung, if you have something to say, just say it. Lung Rawashue knew what was going on. She laughed in her heart. It seemed like this old man couldn't keep his cool anymore. However, he really had to worry about those troublesome descendants. I know that some of the Chung family's elders are insensible and have annoyed you. Can you give me face and not hold it against them? Don't worry. Our Chung family will pay for their expenses in full, and I guarantee that there won't be a single cent less. The master of the Chung family promised. After he knew that someone from the Chung family had joined in the trouble, he immediately went to find the old man of the Ning family and the great elder. At first, those 2 old men didn't intend to help and only looked at him sympathetically. In the end, he said a lot of good things and promised a lot of unfair conditions before they were willing to go with him. Boo! These two old things were disloyal. Chung family head. Originally, I shouldn't have argued with them because of you, but now is a critical time, and I have to be extra careful. They clearly look down on me, so why should I care about their life and death? I've just decided to return some people's accommodation fees. Their life or death is up to you. Lung Ruashua said emotionlessly. I'll apologize on their behalf, okay? The head of the Chung clan bitterly said with hidden bitterness. Patriarch Chung, I didn't want to tell you about this at first, but since it's come to this, I don't intend to hide it from you. It's also good to let you be mentally prepared. Lung Ruashua hesitated for a moment after hearing Master Cheng's words, then slowly replied. What is it? Seeing Lung Ruakshu's serious expression, Master Ning, First Elder, and Master Cheng all looked at her seriously. There's a hidden chess piece of the man in black around you. That person has been lurking around you all this time, waiting for the opportunity to strike. However, I haven't found this person yet, so everyone in this house is suspicious. Lung Ruashua didn't beat around the bush and said directly, What? This is true? The master of the Ning family asked in surprise. And Lung Ruashua nodded. Thanks, you don't have any clues at all? The great elder asked worriedly. If there was such a time bomb around them, their safety would be a big problem. The time is too short, so I haven't caught that person's trail yet. However, I'm trying my best. Lung Ruashua explained. If there's anything you need our cooperation with, just tell us, girl. The master of the Ning family sighed. Godfather, it's a critical time now. If the people in a clan can't be of one mind, then it's better to give up on such clansmen. Lung Ruakshu's words were very subtle, but the three of them, who were experienced with age, understood the meaning between the lines. Instantly, the great elder and Master Ning's eyes turned to Master Chung at the same time. The head of the Chung family laughed bitterly. He knew that Lung Ruakshu's words were meant for him because there were some troublesome descendants. However, as the old ancestor of the Chung family, he really hoped to bring everyone who was brought into the mystic realm out safely. Furthermore, those people could be considered the elites of the Chung family. If they lost them, it would be a huge loss for the Chung family. After some thought, the head of the Chung family said, there are some people in the Chung family who are not easy to worry about, but they are still very loyal to the Chung family. So, as the head of the family and the ancestor of the Chung family, I can't abandon them. How about this? They'll give you the cost of their departure without any difference. As for their behavior, they'll control them. If they still don't repent, then he'll definitely put righteousness before family. Clan head Cheng's tone was one of negotiation. From this, it could be seen that he valued Lung Ruakshu's attitude. Seeing that old man Chung had already put it this way, Lung Ruashua could only nod her head and say the ugly words first, Patriarch Chung. They'll give them one more chance. I hope you can restrain them. However, if they're incited by others again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Of course, they'll go back and teach them a good lesson. They definitely won't dare to do it again. The head of the Chung clan promised. After he finished speaking, he nodded to Lung Ruashua and the rest before turning around and leaving the room. After Master Chung left, Master Ning continued to ask with a serious face, do you have any suspicions about this hidden chess piece? Godfather, this hidden chess piece's strength should be at Reverend God level. Lung Ruashua said with certainty. When they had first entered this place, Lung Ruashua had arranged for Qing Ju to investigate the people here. Qing Ju had used his mind-reading technique on those below the Reverend God level. However, he had not found the hidden chess piece that they were looking for. With Qing Ju's current strength, Reverend God level was the only one that he could not use his mind-reading technique on. Hence, he had no way of checking on the Reverend God level experts here. As such, their search had been narrowed down. Reverend God? In that case, aren't I a suspect? The master of the Ning family blinked his eyes, finding it hard to believe. Besides, he couldn't understand how a supreme god, who was already a top expert in the divine world, could become someone else's hidden chess piece. This was really unbelievable. Yup. However, I believe that Godfather isn't this hidden chess piece. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you about this. Lung Ruashua said with a smile. Godfather, you've been in contact with them for a long time. Do you think anyone is suspicious? Lung Ruashua asked again. Suspicious? In terms of suspicion, the reason we came to this secret realm was all because of that old plague. Originally, we didn't plan to come, but we couldn't stand his persuasion and we didn't want to be looked down by him. So we decided to take the risk with him. The master of the Ning family said after some thought. He can indeed be listed as a suspect, but I think he's injured. Lung Ruashua said. Based on our observation, that old man seemed to be quite badly injured. Chapter 1779, Exposed 3. What's the big deal about getting injured? Which one of us isn't injured? The first elder said disapprovingly. However, the moment he said it, he regretted it. With that little girl's shrewdness, she wouldn't have heard anything, right? He was a little uneasy. He didn't mean to let it slip. Is that so? After hearing first elder's words, Lung Ruashua narrowed her eyes and asked with a smile that was not a smile. Hee. Of course. It's nothing to get injured here. The great elder braced himself and said, but the master of the Ning family didn't dare to look at him at all. He could only look up at the ceiling, but in his heart, he was already cursing the great elder with dog blood. Fuck, you could have said something else. Why did you have to talk about injuries? If he aroused Shui Er's suspicion, the two of them would be in trouble. Woo, he was so scared. So you've been injured too? After Lung Ruashua finished speaking, she grabbed Master Ning's arm and examined it. Then, she looked at First Elderess. After she was done, she didn't say a word and just stared at the two of them coldly. Under Lung Ruakshu's cold gaze, the Grand Elder and Master of the Ning family felt a chill. They felt extremely uneasy. This girl's gaze made them feel a mountain of pressure. They were about to break out in cold sweat. Wu Shui made them so scared. All right, we're injured. After a long time, First Elder could no longer bear the pressure that Lung Ruashua gave him and surrendered. Shui girl. Shinua is already thinking of a solution. You don't have to worry. This is just a small injury. It won't be a problem. Seeing that the great elder had admitted it, the master of the Ning family could only brace himself and comfort him. However, after hearing their conversation, Lung Ruashua remained silent and continued to stare at them coldly. Uncle Long, on the other hand, was leisurely drinking his tea and watching the show. Shui, don't be like this. Can you say something? After a while, Master Ning couldn't take it anymore. Shui didn't say a word. This made him particularly nervous. His little heart was beating wildly. Wu Shui actually bullied him. What does Godfather want me to say? Lung Ruashua smiled faintly, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Her voice was also a little cold, which made Master Ning and First Elder shiver. They knew that Shui was really angry. Whatever you say, just don't be like this. The First Elder said in fear. It seems like I shouldn't be the one to say anything. It should be you guys. Lung Ruashua said nonchalantly. We shouldn't have hidden our injuries from you. We were just afraid that you would be worried. The master of the Ning family felt very wronged. He had lived for so long, but he had never been so humble before. However, even so, Shui Er's anger might not be appeased. You're injured, so there's no need to hide it from me. Now you're lying. This is pure deception, and I hate being deceived the most. So, please leave my room immediately. I don't want to see you. Lung Ruashua said angrily. Shui, don't be like this. We know we were wrong. Master Ning said pitifully. His originally shrewd eyes were now misted with tears. However, Lung Ruashua was unmoved. She stood up and entered the inner room. Seeing this, the evildoer had no choice but to personally send the two old men who wanted to continue acting pitiful out of the room. The two old men who were chased out continued to linger outside Lung Ruakshu's room, unwilling to leave easily. However, the tightly shut door would not open for them. In the room, Uncle Long chuckled and said, "They're going to have a hard time this time." "He deserves it. Who asked them to lie to Shui-er? The demon said without any sympathy. Not bad. We have to teach them a lesson. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue walked out from the inner chamber. There was no longer any trace of anger on her face. Hee, Shui-er, you're not angry. The two old men were scared to death. Uncle Long said, the secret realm is full of dangers. I've long been mentally prepared that they would be injured, so how could I really be angry with them? However, I've decided to teach them a good lesson this time. Let's see if they still dare to lie in the future. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Hee, I don't mind teaching them a lesson, but their injuries can't be delayed any longer. They need to be treated as soon as possible. Uncle Long reminded. Don't worry, Uncle Long, I know what I'm doing. Lung Ruoxue promised. With that, she brought Uncle Long and the evildoer into the bracelet while she went straight into the purple bamboo house to refine healing elixirs for her godfather and the great elder. The next morning, Shen Nuo, who had finished refining the elixir, immediately went to look for Lung Ruoxue and passed her a small jade bottle. Lung Ruoxue opened the jade bottle and took out a red pill to admire it. This pill was extremely beautiful. It was crystal clear like a red ruby bead. Furthermore, the pill's surface was glowing with a fiery red light, making it look exceptionally beautiful. Thanks, young Miss Lung. The fish scale petals you gave me were used to refine 15 fish scale pills. They are all here. Shen Nuo explained. They'll have to trouble President Shan. Lung Ruoxue nodded to express her gratitude. Miss Lung, Shen didn't know what to say, because he had just met First Elder and Master Ning at the door of Lung Ruoxue's room, and he also knew that their injuries had been exposed. What made him a little conflicted was that the person who helped them to falsify the truth was himself, and now they wanted him to plead for them. How could he say it? Also, he was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would vent her anger on him. He was in a dilemma. Guild Leader Shun, I know what you want to say. If you want to plead for them, there's no need to. Lung Ruoxue immediately blocked off the words that Shen Nuo had yet to say. She then continued, however, I have a small matter that I would like to ask President Shun for help with. Please speak, Miss Lung. Shen Nuo hurriedly said. Please pass these 2 pills to them on my behalf, President Shun. Tell them that you refined them. Lung Ruoxue handed over a jade bottle. All right. Shen Nuo took the jade bottle and curiously opened the bottle cap to take a look. Her eyes instantly widened. Inside the small jade bottle, there were 2 light green pills that were emitting the aura of grass. Spiritual energy was floating on the pills, and one could tell that they were of ordinary quality with a single look. This was a healing pill refined with dragon beard grass as the main ingredient. This was also the best healing pill in the divine realm. This aura, this taste, he would definitely not be mistaken. When he thought of this, the way he looked at Lung Ruoxue changed even more. This little girl was really full of surprises. First, it was the fish scale flower. Now, she had taken out the dragon beard pill. He really didn't know what else she couldn't get. And with these 2 dragon whisker pills, the injuries of the Ning family's master and great elder would not be a problem. Young Miss Lung, I wonder if you still have this dragon whisker pill in your hands? Shen Nuo could not help but ask. Although he had long wanted to cure the injuries of Master Ning and the First Elder, he did not have the legendary dragon's beard grass. Furthermore, not only did the First Elder and Master Ning need this herb, there were also a few people who were severely injured who needed it as well. Yes, but I won't give it to anyone else for free except Godfather and the Great Elder. Lung Ruoxue said honestly. That's natural. We alchemists aren't saints. Moreover, this dragon whisker pill is even more difficult to obtain, so it's only natural for them to pay a price to buy it. Moreover, they don't lack money. Shen Nuo said with a smile. This was a pill that could save their lives. He believed that no one would be stingy with their own lives. That's good. May I know how many pills President Shen needs? Lung Ruoxue asked, satisfied. Not including the Grand Elder and Master Ning. There are 4 people who need this dragon whisker pill to completely cure their injuries. Give me 4. Shen Nuo said after thinking for a while. All right. Lung Ruoxue then took out a small white jade bottle and passed it to Shen Nuo, saying there are a total of 5 pills in here. The extra one will be the reward for helping me sell this dragon beard pill for a good price. Thank you, Miss Lung. I won't stand on ceremony then. Shen Nuo said happily. If it was any other pill, you might not want it. However, this dragon whisker pill, he would not hypocritically reject it. One must know that in a critical moment, the dragon whisker pill could save one's life as long as one still had a breath. President Shun, you're welcome. Lung Ruoxue smiled. Following that, Shen Nuo stood up and bade her farewell. Lung Ruoxue once again entered the bracelet and fed Suju the fish scale pill that Shen Nuo had refined. After waiting for a while, Suju still had not woken up. Lung Ruoxue could not help but feel a little disappointed. Sister, don't worry. This pill is taking effect. However, Sister Queeze's poison is too powerful, so it will take a long time. Xiao Yu, who was surrounding Lung Ruoxue, could feel her emotions and quickly consoled her. Little Yu, it'll leave Sister Tsuiju to you. Inform me immediately if there's anything unusual. Lung Ruoxue ordered. Sister, don't worry. We will take good care of Sister Tsuiju. Little Yu, clenched her little fist and promised. Following that, Lung Ruoxue brought the evildoer and Uncle Long out of the bracelet and left the room. As soon as they went out, the master of the Ning family and the first elder immediately surrounded them and said, Little Shui, our injuries are no longer a problem. Shen Nuo said that he has a way to concoct medicinal pills that can cure our injuries. So what? Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. She was extremely satisfied with Shen Nuo's ability to do things. It seemed like Shen Nuo was very clear about her intentions, so she did not immediately hand the dragon whisker pill over to them. Very good. This time, she must make them remember this lesson. Let's see if they dare to lie to her about such things again in the future. Chapter 1780, Instigating 3. Oh, how much are you prepared to pay? Uncle Long asked directly. Uncle Long, feel free to state your price. The head of the Yao family wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and cursed in his heart. I've never heard of someone who loves money. If he didn't recognize that monster's fandom image, he would definitely think that this person was a fake. However, in the entire divine realm, those who dared to impersonate that person were probably not even born yet. Little girl, how much do you think we should ask for? After hearing the Yao family head's words, Uncle Long turned to look at Lung Ruoxue and asked, The Yao family is one of the 8 great divine domains, so the compensation they're paying must match their status. If they're too little, they won't be able to lift their heads in the divine realm. I think we'll just take a third of the Yao family's assets. Lung Ruoxue furrowed her brows and pondered for a moment before replying. When Uncle Long heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he couldn't help but wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself, this little girl is really ruthless. This time, the Yao family's brat would definitely die of heartache. However, with him around, that fellow would not dare to play any tricks. At the thought of this, Uncle Long smiled and said, Yao family's little brat, did you hear that? Just compensate according to what this junior has said. After the Yao family's head heard the words of these 2 people, he was so angry that he couldn't speak for a long time. This was really a lion's mouth. He wanted to take away a third of the Yao family's assets all at once, and even said that it had to match the Yao family status. This was clearly robbery. He felt indignant. However, when he thought of Uncle Long's strength and his status among the divine realm's magical beasts, he could only swallow his anger. Uncle Long, I'm willing to compensate you with a third of the Yao family's assets. I beg you to forgive me and let go of the Yao family's juniors. The patriarch of the Yao family said pitifully. In fact, the reason why he agreed to compensate so much money was not only for the younger generation of the Yao family. It was mainly because of Uncle Long's identity and status. One should know that Uncle Long was one of the iconic experts in the divine world. Furthermore, he had lived for a long time and his strength was unfathomable. Therefore, He was really unwilling to offend Uncle Long because of his mistake. It would not do any good for the Yao family. Since you, this Yao family's little fellow, are so sensible, then I won't argue with them. You must strictly discipline these Yao family people. If they dare to provoke us again, don't blame me for being merciless. Also, Shuer has already returned their accommodation fees. From tonight onwards, they can't enter the house anymore. You don't have any objections, do you? Uncle Long glared at him and continued. Uncle Long, our Yao family is willing to pay for all their expenses, so please give them another chance. The head of the Yao family begged for mercy. He knew that if the younger generation of the family were not allowed to enter the house, they would definitely not be able to live at night. Therefore, he could only lower his voice and beg the other party. What were you doing earlier? Uncle Long snorted coldly. I didn't expect that you would really drive him out. The head of the Yao family said with an embarrassed smile. They were confused. Uncle Long, please give them another chance. We can give them opportunities, but we have to double the money. Otherwise, if everyone learns from them, wouldn't it be a mess? Uncle Long said, leaving no room for discussion. Good. No problem. The Yao family head's heart was bleeding. Wu, if he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have done it. Why did they cause so much trouble? This was really a double loss. Just as the head of the Yao family was remorseful, Baby had already run to him happily. He stretched out his little paw and said with a smile, Yao family head, please pay. Seeing this, the head of the Yao family held his breath and almost passed out. How could he, the head of the Yao family, renege on a debt? Was there a need to collect money from him in such a hurry? In the end, he still handed over all the Yao family's expenses and the compensation to Uncle Long. The Yao family head is really rich. As soon as the money was in his hands, the baby couldn't help but sigh. Then, he ignored the Yao family head's darkened face and ran back to his lovely master's side with an excited face to present the treasure. Lung Ruoxue placed the money and the items that were used to pay for the treasures into the bracelet and handed it over to Qingju. Then, she smiled the Yao family head and said, Yao family head, I welcome you to correct your mistakes. We're partners for the time being. The head of the Yao family snorted coldly as a response to Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't take it to heart, and the smile on her face became even more radiant. At this moment, the Wen family head transmitted his voice to the Yao family head with an unwilling expression. Yao family head, how could you agree to such a rude condition? Aren't you falling into their trap? Thanks, what else can we do? The head of the Yao clan helplessly replied. Who is Uncle Long? The head of the Wen family was a little bewildered. He knew very well that the head of the Yao family, who had been knocking on the door, had only lowered his voice and compromised for the sake of Uncle Long. I can only tell you that we can't afford to offend Uncle Long. The head of the Yao family said gloomily. He had long heard that Uncle Long didn't care about anything, but he didn't expect to meet him in the secret realm. Sigh. We can't afford to offend him. He's the same as us, a hierarch. Why can't we afford to offend him? The head of the Wen family said, unconvinced. In the entire divine world, other than the divine master, there should be no one they could not afford to offend, right? If you don't believe me, you can go and try. Don't expect me to help you. The head of the Yao family said bluntly. The Yao family had suffered a great loss in this trip to the mystic realm. Is Uncle Long really that terrifying? The Wen family head was still in doubt. Suddenly, there was a rumble in the distance. Boom! Everyone was shocked because they were all too familiar with this sound. Moreover, along with the rumbling sound, there were intermittent screams. These screams were from the people who were thrown out by the huge monster. We're finished. The monsters are coming. Let's hide in the house. Someone shouted. The scene was in chaos. Many people were like ants on a hot pan, scurrying around. Calm down. Even the weakest among you are divine emperors. But now you've scared away some monsters that are weaker than you. Don't you feel ashamed? Lung Ruoxue looked at the disorganized crowd and said with a look of disdain, You said that you would ensure our safety. Are you going to break your promise? Another hostage asked, If you pay, they'll naturally guarantee your safety. However, I also need your cooperation. You have so many experts. Do you expect a small god like me to destroy all the monsters? Do you think you're worthy of your status if you want to get something without putting in any effort? Lung Roashua mocked. Miss Lung is right. For the sake of our dignity, we can't back down. Everyone, let's fight those monsters to the death. One of the Ning family's leaders said. He even gave Lung Roashua a look. Before they left, their elder had instructed them very clearly to listen to Lung Roashua. Furthermore, they knew that Lung Roashua's flames could destroy these monsters. So, although they looked a little flustered on the surface, they were very calm in their hearts. Right. For our dignity, we can't hide anymore. We have to fight to the death with those monsters. Someone from the Chung clan also said. Looking at their impassioned expressions, the one family head said worriedly, all of you, calm down. Don't act rashly. How could those monsters be so easy to deal with? The most important thing now is to quickly enter the house to save our lives. Everyone, hurry up and go in. His words caused some of them to hesitate. Lung Roashua saw this and smiled. Does the one family head want everyone to be cowards? If you're afraid, you can go in yourself. We're going to fight these monsters for our reputation. It is. So many people from one family have died. As the head of the family, not only are you not thinking of avenging them, you even want us to keep hiding. What are you thinking? An elder of the Ning family said disdainfully. Don't be ungrateful. I'm just thinking of your safety. Those monsters couldn't be killed at all, so why fight them head on? Moreover, so many of the one family members have died. Don't you think my heart aches? You must know that those are all my descendants. However, now is not the time to act on impulse. Before we have absolute confidence in dealing with those monsters, the best choice is to preserve our strength. Furthermore, do you think that Miss Lung is letting you fight those monsters for your dignity and honor? Don't be fooled by her. She has already taken the money and said that she will protect your safety, but she still instigates you to fight those monsters. She clearly wants you to die, so she doesn't have to keep her promise, and the money you paid went into her pocket without any effort. That's her goal. The one family head flew into a rage out of humiliation as he tried to drive a wedge between them. Furthermore, his face was flushed red as he roared, his emotions agitated, as if he was really burning with anxiety. When the crowd heard the one family head's words, they became even more hesitant. Even though Lung Roakshu's words made sense, the one family head's words made sense too. Furthermore, these monsters were indeed unkillable and might even cause them to lose their lives. For a moment, everyone was conflicted and the atmosphere at the scene became gloomy. Chapter 1781. Sowing Discord 2. Since Senior insists, then Well respectfully comply. After he finished speaking, the wretched-looking old man gave everyone a look. Immediately, they turned their attention to Uncle Long. In fact, they had long wanted to teach this reverent god named Uncle Long a lesson, but they were not confident in fighting him alone. But now it was different. They were going to fight him as a group. Therefore, they were not so afraid of Uncle Long. When Uncle Long saw that they had turned their attention to him, he was overjoyed. He rubbed his hands together and waited for them to make their move. It looked like he would be able to satisfy his craving today. Furthermore, these people could be beaten up however they wanted. There was no pressure in beating them up, and there was no need to show mercy. This was great. Go! At the wretched-looking old man's command, the people surrounding Uncle Long all attacked. In an instant, several rays of multicolored divine power attacked Uncle Long. Just as the divine power was about to reach Uncle Long, a light barrier appeared in front of Uncle Long, blocking the divine power. Then Uncle Long attacked. The shadow of a huge monster appeared behind Uncle Long. The monster had the head of a dragon and the body of a whale. Its body was so huge that it almost covered half the sky. The aura on its body was sharp and terrifying. Its angry dragon eyes stared at the humans who attacked it with viciousness and contempt. With a dragon's roar, the monster's phantom image leaped into the air. With a gentle swing of its huge tail, dozens of people were swept away by it. The remaining people began to tremble in fear when they saw the monster's phantom image. What is this thing? They had lived for so long and had never seen this monster before. However, the monster's innate, powerful pressure made them feel unusually depressed. Some people's legs had already begun to tremble. At this time, a shrill scream came from the distance. Immediately, the timid people sat on the ground and wet themselves in fear. A bunch of useless things. It's a waste of air to keep you alive, so why don't I clean up your family's mess? Uncle Long shouted. Then, the monster behind him swung its tail again, and dozens of people were thrown out. Many of the others fainted when they saw this. Uncle Long, spare me. We were wrong. Those who were still conscious begged for mercy. The miserable shrieks from the distance made them feel even more pressured. Woo-woo, there were so many of them, and the weakest was a divine emperor. They couldn't even defeat a reverent god when they worked together. This fact made them feel quite depressed. Spare you? In your dreams, Uncle Long said, leaving no room for discussion. Then, the phantom of the monster behind him immediately shrank to the size of a human. Then there was a pawpaw. Pawpaw. The monster used its tail as a hand to slap the faces of the remaining people. In less than a quarter of an hour, their faces were swollen like a pig's head. After the monster had enough of the slaps, it was about to throw the remaining people away like the previous 2 times when it was interrupted by an urgent voice. Uncle Long, please show mercy. A hurried voice interrupted, and then 3 people came out of the house. These 3 people were the family heads of the Yao family, the One family, and the En family, and the one who spoke was the Yao family's family head. The 2 family heads of the Yao family and the One family saw that their own family members were being punished by Uncle Long. They were burning with anxiety and ran out of their houses, not caring about their injured bodies. As for the family head of the En family, he was purely here to watch the show because there were no people from the En family among the people who were causing trouble. Thanks, who are you? Why should I show mercy? Since they dared to offend me, they should be prepared to be taught a lesson by me. Uncle Long cast a sidelong glance at the head of the Yao clan and said in an unpleasant tone, in the divine realm, only the strong are respected. Once one becomes a top-tier expert, one's background is no longer that important. Regardless of whether one is a human or a magical beast, one should be respected by everyone. Unfortunately, there are some people who are self-righteous and think that they can look down on other experts just because they have someone to back them up. Thus, Uncle Long was ruthless to them today, other than because they were being unreasonable to him. He also wanted to avenge the beasts who had been enslaved by the humans. He wanted to let them know that beasts were not to be trifled with. I'm the head of the Yao family. I've long heard of Uncle Long's name, and today I finally met you. You're indeed worthy of your reputation. The head of the Yao family said with a fawning expression. He never dreamed that this Uncle Long in front of him was actually the one from the endless ocean. If he had known earlier, how could he have indulged his own junior to find trouble for no reason? However, it was too late to say anything now because that person was famous for being difficult to talk to. More importantly, Uncle Long's strength was unfathomable. Even if he was at his peak, he wasn't sure if he could defeat this Uncle Long. Moreover, he was injured now. Moreover, he didn't want to be enemies with Uncle Long. After all, the beasts in the endless ocean all followed Uncle Long's lead. If he really made Uncle Long unhappy and caused a riot in the endless ocean, even if the Yao family was one of the 8 great divine regions, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. So, it's the Yao family's little fellow. I didn't expect you to have grown so big. After hearing what the head of the Yao family said, Uncle Long smiled, but his words made the head of the Yao family depressed. All right, he admitted that Uncle Long was older than him and had lived longer than him, but he couldn't call him a little guy in front of so many people. Whoa, how could he face others in the future? The head of the Yao family was depressed, but he didn't dare to refute Uncle Long's words and could only smile foolishly. As Lung Ruashua listened to their conversation, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. She didn't expect Uncle Long's seniority to be so high. In his eyes, the head of the Yao family was just a little fellow, and that constipated old man didn't even dare to refute. This was really too funny. Yao family's little brat. Is there something you need from me? Uncle Long played dumb. The head of the Yao family was very depressed. Didn't he tell Uncle Long to show mercy? Why did Uncle Long ask if he was okay? He really didn't know if he didn't make it clear enough, or if Uncle Long had Alzheimer's disease. How could he have forgotten what he had said before in such a short time? Uncle Long, please show mercy and let go of these Yao family juniors. After taking a few deep breaths, the head of the Yao family reiterated, "Oh, just this matter. Actually, it's not that I can't let them go, but what about the fact that they bumped into me?" Uncle Long raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I'm willing to apologize to Uncle Long on their behalf." The head of the Yao family hurriedly said, "You're done with an apology? Uncle Long has lived for so long, but I've never been bullied like this by a human or a beast." Uncle Long said, feeling wronged, "Our Yao family is willing to compensate for Uncle Long's mental damage. We hope that you will forgive us and let these juniors go." The head of the Yao family made up his mind. He knew that he had to pay a huge price today, but fortunately, most of the remaining people were from the Yao family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for mercy. Chapter 1782. Instigating one, Lung Ruoxu's cold attitude caused the two of them to be at a complete loss. They looked at Lung Ruoxu and nervously and pitifully said in unison, "Shui, we know we were wrong. Don't be angry." After they finished speaking, the two of them lowered their heads like children who had done something wrong, not daring to look at Lung Ruoxu. Fortunately, there were no outsiders here. Otherwise, they would be shocked to see the two of them in this state. One must know that the two of them held a very important position in the firmament. However, in front of Lung Ruoxu, they could not display any dignity at all. The main reason for this was that they had a guilty conscience. "Oh, really? Where did you go wrong?" Lung Ruoxu said with a half-smile. "We shouldn't have hidden our injuries from you. We shouldn't have lied." The two of them whispered, "Since you know, then accept your punishment." Lung Ruoxu said coldly, he still had to be punished? They couldn't help but cry out in fear. They had already apologized, but this little girl still didn't plan on letting them go. Woo! They really had a bitter life. As the two of them reproached themselves, they couldn't help but steal glances at Lung Ruoxu with pitiful and aggrieved eyes. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxu was completely unmoved. "It's fine if you don't want to be punished, but don't say you know me in the future." Seeing through their thoughts, Lung Ruoxu said directly, "We are willing to accept the punishment." When the two of them heard this, they quickly said Shui actually bullied them and said that she won't acknowledge them in the future. "How can this be? That's good. Don't appear in front of me for half a month. If there's anything, they'll send my baby to find you." Lung Ruoxu said after some thought. Her punishment for them was to give them the cold shoulder for half a month and see if they would remember. All right then. The two of them lowered their heads and tucked their tails between their legs as they walked away. "Shui, this punishment of yours is quite interesting. Is it useful to them?" Looking at their backs, Uncle Long was very curious. He didn't expect that Shui's punishment would be not seeing them. This was a punishment he had never heard of before. He just didn't know if it would be useful to them. "It's useful," Lung Ruoxu said with certainty. "Oh, he'll wait and see," Uncle Long said, as if he wished for the world to be in chaos. Then, the three of them walked to the courtyard. At this time, the courtyard was already full of people. After seeing them, many of them had unkind expressions on their faces. "From today onwards, you will have to stay outside the house during the day. You can go out now." Lung Ruoxu stood in front of them and said straightforwardly. She had already asked the great elder to set up the entry and exit rites of the house. Hence, she now had partial control over the house. After everyone heard her words, they looked at each other and then began to walk out of the house. After those who took the initiative to go out had all left, the rest of the people in the courtyard did not want to go out. Lung Ruoxu saw that those people had no intention of going out. She didn't waste any more time with them and immediately moved them out. Then, the three of them walked out as well. "Thanks. What right do you have to move us out of the house? We didn't say we were coming out." The moment Lung Ruoxue and the other two stepped out of the house, they were immediately surrounded by a group of people with aggressive auras. I made it very clear. You must stay outside the house during the day. However, you don't have to go in at night. We don't take in cowards who are idle. Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. What do you mean by this? You've taken quite a lot of money from us, and now you want to drive us out after taking the money? What about the Great Elder? We're going to find the Great Elder to judge. Someone shouted. The Great Elder won't care about this. I'm fully responsible for this house. As for the money you mentioned, he'll return it to you immediately. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she moved the treasure out and indicated for it to return the money. Baby took out a list of names and waved its little paw. The premium crystal stones that it had prepared in its spatial ring flew to the front of these people. However, when they saw the crystal stones in front of them, none of them put them away. Instead, they glared at Lung Ruoxue with even more anger. Someone even questioned her. What's the meaning of this? I've already explained it very clearly. Don't you understand? Well, return your accommodation fees, and in the future, your life and death have nothing to do with us. You're on your own now. Lung Ruoxue said coldly. How can I do that? When the people surrounding Lung Ruoxue and the other two saw that she was being serious, they instantly panicked. It was fine if they were not allowed to stay in the house during the day, but if they were to be driven out at night, would they still have a way out? Wasn't this forcing them onto the path of death? What's wrong? We are the owners of this house, and we have the right to decide who can live in it. Now, we have already returned the accommodation fees to you, so you're on your own. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. You vicious woman, you're forcing us to die. No wonder people say that a woman's heart is the most vicious. How can your heart be so vicious? Someone said with hatred, his voice choked with sobs. Upon hearing this, the others looked at Lung Ruoxue with even more hostility. They even closed in on Lung Ruoxue in unison, planning to take the opportunity to strike and force her to commit the crime. However, Uncle Long was one step ahead and stood in front of Lung Ruoxue, blocking her way. He glared at her and said, What are you guys trying to do? Senior, please don't interfere in our business with this evil woman. One of the people who surrounded Lung Ruoxue said politely, There are so many of you bullying a girl, and you won't let me interfere. Do you want me to stand by and do nothing? Uncle Long said with a cold smile, Senior, this is a matter between us and her. Someone pointed at Lung Ruoxue and said, Oh, but her business is my business, so there's no way I won't interfere. If you want to teach her a lesson, you'll have to get past me first. Uncle Long said stubbornly. At the same time, he released his pressure. The powerful pressure made the people around them take a step back. Senior, since you insist, then we won't be polite. You should know that we have so many people. If we accidentally hurt Senior, please don't blame us. A wretched-looking old man said proudly. Actually, if it was possible, they were not willing to go against a reverent god-level expert. After all, behind every reverent god in the divine realm, there might be a powerful force. Moreover, the strength of a reverent god was unfathomable. Therefore, no family in the divine realm was willing to provoke a reverent god easily. However, most of the people in the group this time were from the 8 great divine domains and had extraordinary backgrounds. They didn't mind offending a reverent god, since they had a reverent god behind them. They were even less afraid. I won't blame you, as long as you can hurt me, Uncle Long said with a faint smile. Chapter 1783. The Mighty First Elder. 1. Although the people present were hesitant, the monsters in the secret realm would not give them too much time to think. As the footsteps got closer and closer, they had to make an immediate decision. At this moment, an elder of the Ning family, who had always been silent, spoke. Everyone here is basically an elder of their own clan. In the immortal realm, they can be considered to be people with a reputation and status. However, we are now scared out of our wits by these monsters. If this news were to spread, have you ever thought about how disappointed our clan members will be with us? The monster is indeed terrifying, but we should believe in Miss Lung's means. Since she said that she would guarantee our safety, she would not go back on her word. What she is asking now is only our cooperation. Then what kind of men are we? Where is our courage? Where's our fighting spirit? Where is our intelligence? Don't let these monsters become a nightmare for the rest of our lives, or they'll become the demons in our hearts. Even if we're still alive, we'd rather die. Is this what you want? This elder of the Ning family had never liked to speak much, but every time he said something, it was quite shocking. This time was no exception. Hearing his words, everyone's mood turned from hesitation to shame. Soon, some people echoed the Ning family elder's words, and as the thunderous footsteps got closer and closer, everyone's fighting spirit was instantly ignited. The Ning family's elder is right. How can we face our clansmen if we're so timid? If they know that we're so scared of these monsters that we can only hide everywhere, they'll definitely be disappointed in us. So, we should fight these monsters to the death. Someone roared in excitement. Let's fight them. Kill them all. Someone in the crowd took the lead and shouted, Right, let's fight them to the death. A deafening sound suddenly rang out, and the Wen family elder's expression became more and more unsightly. Don't be so impulsive, this is not a joke. The elder of the Wen family said earnestly, Master Wen, if you're afraid, you can go back to your house and hide. I'll stay outside to help Miss Lung. The elder of the Ning family said. After he finished speaking, he glanced at the head of the Wen family with disdain. His words immediately resonated with the crowd. Wen family head, even if you're afraid, don't drag us down. You'll lower our fighting spirit by saying that. It is. We're at the height of our battle intent, so don't you douse our enthusiasm. If you don't want to fight, then quickly hide and stop making such sarcastic remarks. The crowd began to criticize in dissatisfaction, and their words quickly made the Wen family head's face flush red with shame and anger. A bunch of ungrateful things. You're clearly looking to die. The head of the Wen family gritted his teeth and said with a face full of disappointment. However, he could not help but sigh in his heart. Let these monsters teach them a painful lesson. When the time comes, they will know how correct his words are. Wen family head, they're fighting for their own reputation, but you keep saying that they're courting death. Could it be that you really wish for something to happen to them? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue spoke with a smile on her face. Her timely words made the Wen family head even more embarrassed and angry. That's right. Wen family head, are you afraid that something will happen to us? The elder of the Ning family asked. Thanks, I'm doing this for your own good. You won't listen to me. You'll regret it. The Wen family head was so angered by Lung Ruoxue that he stuttered. He glared at Lung Ruoxue and spoke fiercely. Yao family head, En family head, are you planning to play along with them? The Wen family head turned around and said to the Yao and En family heads who were standing at the side. He needed to form an alliance to avoid being too conspicuous. Wen family head, how can this be considered nonsense? They're not 3-year-old children. They know what they're doing. Master En said with a smile. Yup, you've been famous for many years, so you still have the ability to make such a choice. The Yao family's master said with mixed emotions. Your Yao clan is also going to fight with them? The head of the Wen family asked in disbelief. Many of the Yao family members were injured by Uncle Long just now. Could they still fight the monster? Although he thought so in his heart, the words that came out of his mouth were not so pleasant. Furthermore, the patriarch's face darkened at his words. He immediately retorted in displeasure. Wen family head, what are you saying? Could it be that the members of my Yao family are so afraid of death? I didn't mean it that way. Seeing that he had angered the Yao family's head, Master Wen hurriedly tried to explain. However, Lung Ruoxue would not give him a chance to explain. She smiled indifferently and said, I'm sure Master Wen's meaning is that there's a conflict between us, so you're not optimistic about our cooperation. Master Yao, I'm actually quite afraid that you'll drag me down. Why don't you take your family and hide? Lung Ruoxue's tone was full of negotiation, but it made Master Yao feel bad. Their Yao family was ranked second in the 8 great divine domains, but now, in this wretched girl's eyes, they had actually become a burden. How could he swallow this? At the thought of this, the head of the Yao family suppressed his anger and shouted, "Don't worry, Miss Lung. Our Yao family members are all battle-hardened and will definitely not drag you down." "Then I'm relieved." "One family head, since you're afraid of death, then take these 3 elders and hide. Don't let the innocent get involved." "You have to know that I won't feel guilty." Lung Ruoshua looked at the one family head's darkened expression and reminded him with a faint smile. However, looking at the one family head who looked like a commander with nothing to his name, she could not help but laugh in her heart. According to what she knew, the one family had brought quite a number of people into the mystic realm this time, and more than half of them were elders. However, in just a few months, other than the one family head, there were only 3 elders left in the one family. These 3 elders were extremely timid and had been taught a lesson by Uncle Long quite a few times. Thinking about their experiences, Lung Ruoshua felt sorry for them. The one family head was so angry that he was speechless. Furthermore, in order to teach Lung Ruoshua a lesson, he decided that he would stand by and do nothing about this matter. He wanted to see how this woman was going to deal with these monsters. At present, not many people knew that Lung Ruoshua's flames could kill monsters. Although she had promised to protect the safety of the people paying, other than a few families that were on good terms with her, many people were skeptical of her words. However, it was better to have hope than nothing. Furthermore, when they received the money, they had agreed that if they could not guarantee their safety and brought them out of the mystic realm, Lung Ruoshua would have to pay double the compensation. Hence, from their point of view, this was not a loss to them. On the contrary, it gave them a glimmer of hope. Therefore, other than some people who were dissatisfied with the fees, most people were satisfied. Lung Ruokshu's main request to them was to listen to her arrangements. The vast majority of people had no doubts about this. Chapter 1784. The Mighty First Elder 2. At the same time, a few people in the house were standing at the door, watching the movement outside the house. Everything that was happening outside was in their eyes. However, the most surprising thing was Uncle Long's identity. No one, including the master of the Ning family, had expected that Uncle Long would have such an identity. Furthermore, they were not as blind as the old god of plagues. However, the old god of plagues could not be blamed for this. Among the 8 great divine realms, although the one family's strength was not the last, they were the last family to become famous. Their foundation was not as deep as the other 7 families, and they certainly did not know as much about the history of the divine world as them. In addition, Uncle Long had already lived in seclusion for many years and rarely walked in the divine world. Many people had forgotten Uncle Long's identity. However, Uncle Long's terrifying strength was deeply engraved in everyone's hearts. Therefore, when they saw the phantom of the monster, they immediately remembered Uncle Long's identity, because it was one of Uncle Long's supreme talents, the whale swallow. However, Uncle Long had been merciful just now, because he didn't use the real swallowing whale. He only showed his illusionary body to scare them. Otherwise, they would have lost their lives long ago. However, there were still some unlucky ones who were caught by the monsters after being thrown out and became their food. However, most of the people who were thrown out were from the one family. Did Uncle Long do it on purpose? Thinking of this, the Ning family master and the others felt very refreshed. The one family had never been popular in the divinity, so they were gloating over their misfortune. However, hearing the approaching footsteps, Master Ning didn't know if he should go out and help. Sob. Schwer had said not to see them for half a month. If they went out, would the little girl fly into a rage out of humiliation? The monsters are coming. Let's go out and help the little girl. The master of the Chung family suggested, but his words were strongly opposed by the master of the Ning family and the first elder. No, you can't go out. The 2 of them said in unison, but the Chung family head was dumbfounded. Why? Could it be that you're also afraid of death? The head of the Chung family teased in astonishment, his eyes full of surprise. Shin Nuo, who understood the truth, merely smiled and did not say anything. Seeing the aggrieved expressions of the head of the Ning family and first elder, he was already laughing inside. Am not that old god a plague? Why would I be afraid of death? Hearing this, the master of the Ning family was furious. Wasn't this tarnishing his reputation? Everyone knew that he was not a person who was afraid of death. Then why can't we go out? The head of the Chung family was confused. That Shue found out about our fraud and is punishing us. We can't appear in front of her for half a month, so we don't dare to go out. The master of the Ning family said with a look of throwing caution to the wind, but he was secretly lamenting in his heart. Laugh all you want. It would be best if he died from laughing. Sure enough, the head of the Chung family didn't let her down. He laughed happily and exaggeratedly. He laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. In the end, he laughed so hard that he sat on the ground and kept punching the ground. It's not that exaggerated. The great elder's face darkened as he said unhappily, if he could, he really wanted to chase this old thing out. Woo! He had finally caught a laughing stock. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! It's too funny. We're finished. I can't control it anymore. Only that girl is your nemesis, able to make you all so obedient. I really admire her, Woo. Shall be my idol from now on. The head of the Chung clan laughed as he wiped his tears, while the first elder, who was glaring at him, was furious. Thanks, fuck. You stupid old man. It'll make you laugh. It'll let you go out and laugh as much as you want. The usually gentle and kind first elder was furious, and the consequences were very serious. Not only did he curse, but he also raised his leg in anger and kicked the Chung family's head out of the house. Great elder, mighty. Seeing this, Shin Nuo wiped the cold sweat on her forehead and said, Oh my God, was this person the great elder? There were actually times when he was so rough. Today, he had really opened his eyes. Old man, good job. The master of the Ning family also gave a thumbs up. If the great elder didn't do this, he would also do it. After the unlucky master of the Chung clan was kicked out of the house, he did not land in front of Lung Ruoshua and the others as he had wished. Instead, he drew a beautiful arc in the air and leaped over their heads. Lung Ruoshua was a little uncertain as she looked at the thing that floated above her head. It seems to be the clan head of the Chung clan. Uncle Long said with a faint smile. Although he didn't know why the head of the Chung family would come out of the house in such a manner, he quite admired his unique and innovative move. He was human. It had to be different and have its own characteristics so that people would remember it. As soon as Uncle Long finished speaking, everyone heard a loud plop. The object that seemed to be the Chung family's head fell from the sky and landed among the approaching monsters. Everyone was dumbfounded and their hearts were in their throats. However, the master of the Chung family reacted very quickly. After smashing a few monsters to death, he leaped up and suspended himself in midair. The divine power in his hand was constantly released, and he smashed it at the angry monsters with an irresistible force. Seeing this, everyone admired the Chung clan's patriarch for taking the lead. Only such a person was worthy of being the head of the family. Thinking of their previous hesitation, everyone was so ashamed that they wished they could find a hole to hide in. However, it was fortunate that the head of the Chung family didn't know their thoughts at this time. Otherwise, he would definitely be depressed to death because he didn't want to be the first bird. He was kicked out by someone. Everyone, the head of the Chung family is our best example. Let's attack him together. At this time, the taciturn eldest Ning family member roared and rushed directly towards the monsters with a heart full of enthusiasm. His passion ignited the fire that had been hidden in everyone's hearts for a long time. Everyone followed closely behind, holding weapons in their hands and also rushing towards the monsters. Everyone's morale seems to have risen again. Uncle Long looked at everyone's high fighting spirit and said with relief, That old man from the Chung family doesn't seem to be such a brainless person. How could he be so impulsive? At this moment, the slightly dumbfounded when family head mumbled to himself. His words also caused Lung Ruoxue to cast a sidelong glance. When family head, Chung family head, how are you brainless? Could it be that a person who is afraid of death, like you, has a brain? Lung Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. Why am I so afraid of death that I'm brainless? When the one family head heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he immediately glared at her. He was a reverent god after all, and now he was being called brainless by a mere god. How could he swallow this? However, just as he was about to act up, Lung Ruoxue's cold voice drifted over. Chapter 1785. The Mighty First Elder 3. If you're not afraid of death, then go and fight those monsters. As she said this, the words "you wouldn't dare" were written all over Lung Ruoxue's face, infuriating the one family head so much that green smoke started to rise from the top of his head. Oomph. I won't fall for your trick. It's useless to goad me. Besides, I'm not afraid of death. Those monsters can't be killed, and fighting them is just a waste of time. The enraged master of the one family calmed down in the next second. He then looked at Lung Ruoxue and said with a faint smile, "But Miss Lung, didn't you say that you would protect them? But now, you're letting them go up and kill the monsters while you sit here and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Your wishful thinking is really good. It's not time for me to make a move yet." After hearing the one family head's words, Lung Ruoxue replied in a calm manner. At this moment, the people and monsters in the battle circle were already red-eyed and couldn't hear what they were saying at all. Otherwise, just based on the few words of the one family head, there would be people who would suspect Lung Ruoxue's sinister intentions. Hurry up and gather these monsters together. The head of the Chung family warned loudly as he circled around the monsters. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Why were these monsters targeting him? He had attracted nearly half of the monsters around him, which increased the pressure on him. At this moment, Uncle Long joined the battle. The master of the Chung family heaved a sigh of relief, but he still didn't dare to let his guard down because several monsters had been glaring at him with red eyes. Those monsters must have been killed and resurrected by you just now. They felt that it was embarrassing, so they targeted you. Uncle Dragon chuckled and teased them. He attacked with ease, and the monsters were like fragile glass in his hands. They couldn't be touched at all. However, he only seriously injured the monsters and didn't kill them. As a result, the monsters couldn't be resurrected. The head of the Chung family blushed at Uncle Long's teasing. He knew that he had also embarrassed himself. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would be kicked out of the house in such an embarrassing position. Fortunately, he had killed a few vengeful monsters. However, if he knew that he had also been worshipped by everyone because of this, he wondered if he would be even more depressed. With the addition of Uncle Long, the pressure on the group was greatly reduced. Under the command of the experienced Uncle Long, the monsters were quickly beaten to the point where they were on the verge of death. They were gathered together, and in an instant, the monsters had piled up into a small mountain. At this moment, it was Lung Ruoxue's turn to make her move. Lung Ruoxue walked to the front of the pile of monsters and looked at the struggling monsters. On her fair fingertips, there was a small red flame with a hint of purple. She threw it lightly, and the small flame that terrified the monsters was thrown into the pile of monsters. In an instant, it turned into a raging flame. Owo! Ow! The monsters struggled for the last time and roared, their turbid eyes filled with anger and unwillingness. As the fire burned, the monsters' whimpers became softer and softer, until the mountain of monsters were all reduced to ashes. Everyone was dumbstruck by this scene. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that flames could burn these monsters to death. After all, many of them had the fire attribute. However, their flames were like a bath for these monsters. The monsters were not afraid of them at all. However, Lung Ruoxue's flames had shown them what true horror was. Moreover, they couldn't stand the temperature of the flames. Other than watching from afar, they didn't dare to get close. AI, No wonder he dared to say that he would guarantee their safety. Now that they finally knew the reason, they were convinced. The way they looked at Lung Ruoxue was also filled with fear. Their words and actions were even more careful, afraid that if they angered this little ancestor, she would burn them to ashes. Actually, they were overthinking. Although Lung Ruoxue wasn't someone who enjoyed helping others, she wouldn't kill the innocent. As long as they didn't anger her, she wouldn't take action easily. However, once she took action, it meant that there was no room for negotiation. How does it feel to be a bystander when family head? Lung Ruoxue walked to the front of the one family head and sneered. She then ignored the one family head's angry, pale, and handsome face and said to the people behind her, "Let's go. There are plenty of monsters in the secret plane, and this is just a small test of my skills. I've already made up my mind to eliminate all the monsters in the secret plane, so you have to cooperate with me." "Thanks, don't worry, Miss Lung. We'll definitely listen to your every word," an elder from the Yao family said with a fawning expression. Now that they had witnessed Lung Ruoxue's capabilities, the entire Yao family had become well-behaved and had even become her die-hard supporters. If anyone were to speak badly of Lung Ruoxue now, they would be the first to jump out and reprimand her. Who asked Lung Ruoxue to give them hope? Very good. As long as you're obedient, they'll do everything I can to get you out of here, Lung Ruoxue promised. Her words also made everyone present very happy. However, a disharmonious voice rang out in a timely manner. "Miss Lung, you're really shameless. It's not a big deal to kill a few monsters. Besides, the most powerful monsters here are not those monsters." The moment he finished his sentence, he was immediately subjected to the gazes of the crowd. However, before they could criticize the one family head, Lung Ruoxue's voice was heard. "It seems like the one family head is quite familiar with this place. I wonder if there's anything to introduce?" Lung Ruoxue was neither angry nor annoyed as she asked with a faint smile, "What's the meaning of this?" Lung Ruoxue's words immediately alerted the one family's head, and he retorted with a cautious expression. "It's nothing. I just feel that you're quite familiar with this place." Lung Ruoxue laughed as she cast a hand seal to keep the house. She then led the group into the house slowly, while the one family head followed behind them at a steady pace with a serious expression. "Master, what should we do?" At the back of the line, an elder of the one family said timidly, "Well, if I knew that this wretched girl was so powerful, I would rather bleed than be isolated." And now, no one cared about the one family. At this time, even if he was willing to pay double the amount, he was afraid that they would not be willing to take them in. This was really a mistake that could cause 1,000 bones to regret. He was filled with regret. "What are you afraid of? With me around, do you think I can't protect your safety?" The head of the one family growled in a low voice. "Useless things, aren't they just a few monsters?" She had actually scared them to such an extent. However, that woman's flames were really not ordinary. Although he was far away at that time, the heat of the flame went straight to the top of his head and burned his hair. If this continued, all the monsters in this secret realm might really be burned by her. Thinking of this, his gaze became gloomy again. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue and her group, who had been traveling for almost half a month and were attacked by monsters a few times a day, finally returned to the small valley. During this period of time, they had engaged in countless battles with the monsters. In the beginning, the monsters had wanted to kill them relentlessly. However, after witnessing Lung Ruoxue's terrifying flames, the monsters had also become more intelligent. Although they did not dare to appear in front of Lung Ruoxue openly, they had learned how to ambush her in the dark. Especially when someone was alone, that person would definitely become their target. As the number of battles increased, everyone also understood the monsters' intentions. They simply gathered around Lung Ruoxue so that the monsters would not dare to act rashly. However, the number of monsters continued to decrease. The monsters could not kill anyone they wanted, and their companions died every day. As time went on, they went crazy and the anger in their hearts grew. The unlucky when family members became their targets to vent their anger on. as they did not have a good relationship with Lung Ruoxua. Even though they wanted to borrow some light from her, they did not dare to get too close. Every time the monsters attacked, they would uphold the principle of speed, ruthlessness, and accuracy. Once they snatched someone, they would disappear without a trace. Hence, Lung Ruoxua and the rest could only hear screams from afar. However, she did not see anyone from the Wen family. By the time they reached the valley, the Wen family head had already become the commander of the army. Although the crowd was not ashamed of the Wen family head's disregard for the life and death of his clansmen, no one dared to drive him away due to his status in the divine world. However, he had also suffered the contempt of the crowd. Just as Lung Ruoxua was about to enter the house to meet up with Fengde and the rest, countless monsters and men in black suddenly appeared around them. The monsters howled as they surrounded Lung Ruoxua and the rest, while the men in black glared at them with unkind expressions. What's the meaning of this? Lung Ruoxua looked at the grand and spectacular scene and asked in confusion, I've really underestimated you. The middle-aged man said expressionlessly. However, the two little flames of anger dancing in his eyes revealed his turbulent emotions at the moment. He had not expected that this woman would actually find those people before him. In this way, he had no fate with the house. Therefore, after contacting the hidden chess piece and knowing their every move, he made new arrangements. Since the deal had failed, he could only snatch it by force. After making this decision, he sent many monsters to intercept them along the way. Unfortunately, all the monsters he sent returned with countless deaths and injuries. Chapter 1786. Biting Back. 1. The middle-aged man knew very well that those monsters could not do anything to Lung Ruoxua. However, if he did not let those monsters take action, he had no one else to use. As for the men in black beside him, his trusted aides had all been killed by his lord. Now, these men were sent by his lord to assist him. Their loyalty was only to his lord, not him. Hence, he could not send these men out easily. When he thought about the inexplicable deaths of his trusted subordinates, the hatred in his heart rose even higher. Even Lung Ruoxua and the others in front of him had become a thorn in his side. This action of his was called taking his anger out on them, who asked him not to hate his master. Hence, he could only transfer his hatred onto Lung Ruoxua and the others. In addition to the matter of the house, it could be said that the new and old hatred had collided together. I've also underestimated you. You've actually managed to come back at just the right time. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile as she looked at the man who was glaring at her. Everything in the secret plane is under my control. Isn't it a small matter to know when you will return? The middle-aged man sneered. It's a pity that you don't know when we left. Lung Ruoxua was in a good mood, so she didn't mind the middle-aged man exaggerating his abilities. The middle-aged man was exasperated. He really didn't know about this. If he had discovered any clues earlier, how could he have given them the chance to leave? Moreover, this woman had changed her appearance. He couldn't even sense her original aura. It seemed that there should be a high-level alchemist by her side. He guessed in his heart. Oh, what? Uncle, now that I've found the person, I think our deal can be called off. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. All right, then let me nullified. Originally, I was very sincere, but you didn't appreciate it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with hostility as he spoke viciously. It seems that I've really angered Uncle Sai. I didn't want to. Lung Ruoxua's face revealed a helpless smile, and her tone carried a hint of resentment. Little girl, what kind of deal did you make? At this moment, the head of the Chung clan, who had been listening to their conversation, asked curiously. Although the others did not dare to ask, they all turned to look at Lung Ruoxua after hearing this. You guys, he took a fancy to this house of mine and agreed to use you guys to exchange for it. However, I found you guys first, so our deal was not needed. This uncle became even more angry from embarrassment. Business didn't work out, but benevolence and righteousness still existed. However, Uncle clearly doesn't understand this logic. Lung Ruoxua sighed. Little girl, you've worked hard. The head of the Chung family quickly said, "It's not hard. You paid anyway." Lung Ruoxue said in a very realistic manner. Since she had already paid, it could be considered as a deal between them. As long as she brought them out of this place, the deal between them would be considered complete, and there would be no problem of who owing who a favor. Furthermore, she really did not want these people to owe her a favor. After all, these people were all famous figures in the divine world. If they really owed a favor to an unknown nobody like her, they would feel uncomfortable in their hearts. If they were a little petty, they might even... In short, she couldn't save some ingrates, so she would rather let them pay. The silver and the goods were settled, so no one owed anyone anything. The head of the Chung clan didn't know how to react. This little girl clearly didn't want to be too deeply involved with them. Forget it. He had originally wanted to use this opportunity to let her have a few more backers in the divine realm. But this girl was obviously not happy. In reality, he had guessed it right. Lung Ruoxue believed that it was better to rely on herself than on others. Unless she was forced to, she would never be willing to cause trouble for others. It was also because they knew her personality that Master Ning and First Elder doted on her so much. After all, their status was obvious. Naturally, they would not show their concern easily. One must know that any slight movement between the two of them would attract countless people's attention, even though the two of them had been extremely low-key. Thanks, and if someone found out that Lung Ruoxue was their precious, then naturally, there would be people who would have ideas about her. This was something they didn't want to see. Hence, in front of outsiders, there weren't many who knew about their relationship with Lung Ruoxue. However, after this incident, their relationship with Lung Ruoxue would probably not be able to be concealed. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the frustrated master of the Chung family, then turned her beautiful eyes to the middle-aged man. She smiled and said, "Uncle, what do you want?" "Fuck, what did he mean by what did he want?" The middle-aged man muttered angrily to himself. His burning eyes were like a venomous snake as he stared at Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue was extremely calm. This fact made the middle-aged man extremely surprised. This wretched girl was actually not afraid of him. This made him depressed. "Uncle, you should say something. We've been on the road for a long time and are tired. Tell us so that we can go back to our rooms and rest early." Seeing that the middle-aged man was silent, Lung Ruoxue could only urge him. "You still want to rest? In your dreams." He had not had a good rest recently. The middle-aged man frowned and said nothing. "Uncle, your temper can really make people anxious to death. Can't you just be quick?" Seeing that the middle-aged man had yet to respond, Lung Ruoxue spoke again. Her face was filled with an expression of disappointment. "You wretched girl, I'm going to kill you." After a long while, the middle-aged man finally couldn't take it anymore and spoke fiercely. "Kill us? Uncle, you don't want this house anymore?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. "After I kill you, your house will still belong to me," the middle-aged man said confidently. "However, everyone in the secret realm is here now. If you kill us, you won't be able to find blood to feed the flower in your secret chamber. When your master blames you, I'm afraid your subordinates will become its food again." Lung Ruoxue reminded him in a light tone. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, everyone present was confused. What flowers in the secret chamber? Does it need to be fed with blood? That was definitely not a good thing. Everyone knew that. After the middle-aged man heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he was even more shocked. How did this wretched girl know about this? If someone were to say that Lung Ruoxue had entered the secret chamber, he would definitely not believe it. That was because they had been discussing the deal at that time, and Lung Ruoxue had not been able to attend to many things at once. However, he could not understand how this wretched girl could be so clear about the things in the secret chamber. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man pretended to be calm and said, "How do you know about this?" He had to get to the bottom of this matter. After all, this concerned his life and death, as well as his position in front of his lord in the future. "Does it matter how I know?" Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. "Of course." The middle-aged man nodded. However, he was not sure if Lung Ruoxue would tell him about this. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.